All right. Hello. Hello, everyone. Look at this new setup. Hopefully the chat should be visible for everybody. Yeah. Man, I was worried that this whole thing wasn't gonna work at all. And I would have to just delete everything. I got a few new things I can set up, and I also have a hotkey to mute, so if the fire alarm goes off again, it won't ruin everyone's ears. All right, how is everyone doing? Okay. Whew. Let's get started. Turn this up. Okay, so this is my deck checks for August. Last month we had 21 deck checks, and it took like 3 hours to get through that. And I did a lot of like back and forth and like messing with the cards. This time we have 38 decks to go through. So instead of doing a 6-hour stream, I'm going to try and keep the pacing up and sort of just go through them a little bit faster or more efficiently, let's say. This month, some people submitted lists that were not complete. Usually I have people do just a full 100 cards and I do a 5-card swap. For the ones that aren't complete or had too many cards, I just trim them down to the 100 cards. So a few things might have changed. Yeah, almost double. Which is great. It's good. It's good. It just means, I gotta keep moving a little bit. So we'll start with this list as an example. And the considering are the 5 cards I recommend cutting, and the sideboard are the 5 cards I recommend adding. What looks best on stream? Do you guys like visual grid? Or people were saying visual stacks last time. I'm gonna also zoom in a bit. Let's get this a little. How's that? Does that look good? Hopefully that looks good. Alright, so the first commander is from Kizamu. Whisper Blood Litigurus. I don't know exactly what that word is. Yeah, visual stacks? Yeah, I think visual stacks. Some people are saying visual grid, though. How does visual grid, like, default separate it out? I actually kind of like visual grid more, to be honest. Zoom in a bit more. I think I might like visual grid best. Well, let's do visual grid for now and see if that looks good. Yeah, the Discord has been popping off a lot lately, yeah. So this commander is pretty simple. You sack 2 creatures, you reanimate something. Mono black, sack, reanimate, that type of stuff. And this list overall was like pretty good, pretty efficient, a lot of great cards. I mean, like, these are all strong pieces. There was nothing in this list that was like, oh, it's terrible, I need to cut it. So the swaps are pretty simple. 3 lands because there's 37 lands, including MBFCs, after I cut 3 lands. You had 40 lands, which is too much for a non-land-based deck. So just 3 swamps out. And then one thing I was noticing with this deck was I feel like you didn't have enough oomph. Like maybe some more like top-end stuff. So this Golem, too slow, I think. This Diagraph Colossus, there's a zombie sub-theme, but it's not all in on that. And it just gets big, and that's kind of it. There's no evasion for it. So I swapped it for these 5. Smothering A-Bomb, more card draw, and sacrificing creatures. Like, it's just so good in this deck. Snarling Gorehound, I think, is pretty good. It's going to trigger off of a lot of the zombies that you make, and surveilling is almost better than drawing a card sometimes. Oh, starting with your deck, yeah. Yeah, it's a cool list, I like it. And Stinkweed Imp, because your commander can reanimate at instant speed, Stinkweed Imp is like a combat trick. I mean, they can see it in the graveyard, but it has pseudo Death Touch. It's basically Death Touch, but not Death Touch. So you can instant speed, reanimate it, block, kill their thing. Same thing with Overseer of the Damned. ETB destroys a creature. And then it also makes more zombies when the creatures die. It's just a really good reanimation target. Also, Meteor Golem, a really great thing to sack and reanimate multiple times to get repeatable removal. It's really powerful in a list like this. Whoops. Oh. My opera. No, get out of here. Oh, was F1... I'm now realizing that I need to change my opera hotkeys. That's a fix for next stream. So yeah, this is what I recommend for your list. I think all of these are also pretty budget includes. Stinkweed Imp being the most expensive at like $2 on Card Kingdom. It's like only $2 on Card Kingdom. Yeah, I didn't realize F1 would open up Opera Help. That's okay. All right, moving on to the next list. All right, Afterlife by Gummy. So, this is a Taste of Karlov deck. Classic Commander, right? And I see you wanted a lot of Afterlife cards. So I didn't cut any of those, even though I think they're kind of inefficient, to be honest. But you named the deck after it, so how could I cut those? So the 5 cuts, let me switch to the visual. Whoops. Visual grid. Yeah. So here are the 5 swaps for this deck. You had too many lands, so down 1 plains, down 1 forest. F1 is usually the help key in most programs. I didn't know that. I'm trying to think what I use F1 for. Actually, now that I think about it, in Apex and Overwatch, F1 is the help key. Hey, yeah, if you want to sub to the Patreon, I'll check out your Tayam list. Sounds pretty sweet. Tayam's a cool commander. You also had Traveler's Amulet in here, which is it doesn't even ramp. I'm not a huge fan of this card. And Mana Geode. You had a lot of ramp spells, so I just cut the worst one. And then you had Grafted War Gear as a sack outlet, I assume. It's kind of a funny sack outlet, but it's not instant speed, so it's not the best. So I added these few things. Victimize. You can sack your tokens to get back the real thing that makes more tokens. It's really good. Yeheni, Undying Partisan. Great instant speed sack outlet. It's like a real threat in these types of decks. Mind Slash. Easily one of the most powerful sack outlets that isn't free. The strongest non-free sack outlet, if that makes any sense. It lets you sack a creature to Thoughtseize an opponent. It's only sorcery speed activation, but this card is so tough to deal with. I'll talk about this one last. Butcher of Malakir, I don't think it needs any explanation. It's really good in this deck. It's also a 5/4 flyer, so it helps you chunk in. Because I felt like your deck needed more ways to finish the game. Yeah, Mind Slash is crazy. Also, it's like 50 cents. This card is worth nothing. It's so cheap, and nobody plays it. I do want to make a whole video about Thoughtseize effects in Commander, because I think a lot of people overlook them because they just assume that it's not good, but there are certain ones like Mind Slash that can be really powerful. And then Dramatic Finale. This card is a tad awkward in this deck because the commander doubles the triggers from things dying, and since this says this ability only triggers once each turn, it doesn't actually does it actually double? Oh, now I'm rereading it. I have to double check that. Anyway, it's an anthem that makes 2/1s when things die. That's the most important part for this deck. This ability only triggers once each time. Trigger that ability an additional time. It's not copying the trigger, so it shouldn't it shouldn't double Dramatic Finale. Yeah, it shows you their hand and doesn't discard at random. Yeah, no, it's a full-on Thoughtseize. You just have Thoughtseize on a stick. You just have to sack things. Thank you. I'm glad you're enjoying the content. I have some fun videos planned. I think I have something cool planned in the next 2 weeks that you'll like. Yeah, in Yu-Gi-Oh, there's like the rulings are terrible. Otherwise, this list overall is pretty fun. I mean, maybe you have better luck than me, but I think the Afterlife cards are like pretty meh. But if you like them, keep them. If not, I would swap them for more things that just make more tokens, so you can go a little wider. That's kind of my only real other suggestion with the deck. All right, Hades Theos made an Alelia deck. Now, this deck was kind of interesting in that it wasn't finished, so I made a 5-card like swap, but you still gotta add 15 more cards. But that's fine. We'll ignore that for now. This is a pretty powerful list. This is a pretty high budget, pretty strong list. A lot of good cards here. This is a great deck for. Now, if you're playing this in casual, even high power casual, not CDH, I actually don't think Mental Misstep is worth it. But that's a meta call, so that's going to come down to you. Just double think on that one. Or double check that one. And I love Sword of the Meek Thopter Foundry combo with Time Sieve. I played this in Modern. Great combo. This is a cool deck. A few things that I'm kind of weirded out by. Mox Tantalite. I don't know. Still kind of iffy on it. But let's go to the actual cuts and suggestions. So, considering your list only had one creature as of now, I recommended cutting these. We don't have enough things to hold the swords other than tokens, which aren't even the best at it. And your commander is going to be the focus of spot removal since you only have one other creature in the deck. You have a question about Mind Slash. If you have ways to play things at Flash, can you use it? No. If an ability says you may only activate as a sorcery, you're kind of locked into that. Even if you have a ley line in play, that won't get around it. No. Oh hey, first viewer on Twitch. Hello, Twitch viewer. I've merged the chat, so I know you see everyone from YouTube, but if you type, it'll show up there. Hopefully. Other cuts. Lotus Bloom. This card sucks. If you're not reanimating it or cheating into play, it's just. Imagine you draw it on turn 4, then you get it on turn 7. At that point, you should have enough mana to cast whatever you need. Unless it was part of a combo that I missed, Spell Snare, also not very great in Casual Commander. I know this is a high power list. I don't even play this in CDH, to be honest. It's not very good. The only other creature, actually, other than that Baleful Strix, was Lion Diamond, which I don't get in the list. You don't want to discard your hand. I wouldn't play this. Few additions. Caretaker's Talent. Sadly, it's like $10-11 because it's really good in Standard right now, but oh my god, this card is so good. And easily with your commander, you're going to draw a ton of cards. It's also an Anthem, which I think this deck needed more finishers outside of the combo plan. If your combo gets disrupted, you should have more uses for your tokens. Here's another thing. You wanted to make this a control deck. I remember him telling me in Discord. You want stuff like this that can take over the game late game. Really powerful, really strong card that you don't see a lot of because it has to be in an Esper deck, but it's really good. Phyrexian Metamorph, you're an artifact deck. Double your best artifacts. Pretty simple. Master Thopters. We already have a lot of synergies with a bunch of flying dudes that you're making. Might as well make more flying dudes. It's basically a second copy of your commander. It can draw cards. It's a good card. Shorakai. Again, you want to make this a control deck. It's pretty damn good in control decks. It draws cards. It makes dudes. It's also an artifact. Yeah, no, Adjudicator is really underrated. I think people just don't know it exists, because you never see it that often. Oh, you know what's really funny is when you put the emojis in the chat, I can see it on my phone because I have it open on my phone too. The Twitch channel name is just the Trinket page. It's the same. I think it has underscores. When you put an emoji in it, my like chat aggregator just types out the emoji face fuchsia tongue out. It's really funny. All right. That is it for that list. You can post it in the Discord if you're looking for the other 15 cards. Post it in the Discord, and other people will suggest additions. But it seems like a sweet high-power artifact list. All right. Next is Dunkasaur. And he built a new commander. So if you don't know what this one does, it's a 4-mana 3/3 with prowess. Other creatures you control have prowess, and whenever you cast a non-creature spell, this creature, target creature you control can't be blocked this turn. So at first I was like, oh, is he going wide? And although, yes, we're kind of going wide, it also has like a Storm combo plan with Stormkiln Artist and whatever it's called. You know what? Let's visual grid this. There we go. With Stormkiln Artist and Haze of Rage. If you don't know, Haze of Rage has buyback and Storm. I think it's the only card in the game that does, outside of uncards. And if you have enough Storm count and you buy it back, you'll make enough treasures with Stormkiln Artist to just go infinite, which makes your creatures infinitely large, and you get infinite treasures. It's a pretty good, pretty easy combo to set up. So I was playtesting this deck a little bit. I was just goldfishing it, playing, seeing what's going on. And I think we didn't have enough cantrips. I think you were one land over, which I know 33 lands is low, but in a Storm deck like this, that's where you want to be. So I cut like Stun, which I think is one of the worst cantrips, because your commander already stops blocking anyway, so this is just worse than like a blue one. Couldn't find it because of underscores. I don't know what that means. I don't know anything about Twitch. I'm just streaming there. Yeah, Haze of Rage in Stellarly, great option. It's a good card. It triggers a ton of things. It's really sweet. I added Preordain because it's like the best cantrip. Tibolt's Trickery, really good card when you're not in blue. In a Storm deck, I actually like Supreme Will, because during your Storm turn, it's not just a counter spell, it's also like, it's not an anticipate, it's an impulse. Impulse, that's what it is. Yeah, I'll catch you later. I mean, this stream will be a few hours, so if you're back, happy to have you. I also added Crime Novelist to this list, which I realize works only with the treasure package. I believe you said you wanted to add more to the treasure package. If I'm misremembering you telling me that, let me know, and we'll pick something. We'll pick something else in this slot, or you can just put Stun back. And then I think you need more card advantage. So Archmage Emeritus. I cut Filter out because I'm kind of lukewarm on this card. And it doesn't, like, I don't know, how often do you need to bounce all artifacts and enchantments? I feel like this deck can combo kill kind of early. And then Lightning Bolt I think is just a little too inefficient. You'd rather have something that draws cards. Alright, those are my changes. Otherwise, I think this list is pretty sweet. I love Is It Storm. I love Storm, so, I'm not... I think this is a cool deck. And I'm excited to see this commander. Alright, first, I think it's the only background for this month, actually, from Hamburger King. So, Amber Gristlemal, cool card. Whenever she attacks, you can pitch your whole hand. If you do, you draw a card for each player being attacked. So, at worst, she can attack, and then you can, like, draw a card if you're hellbent, which is neat. And then we have Guild Artisan as the background. So whenever you swing at a player, if it's your opponent with the highest life total, basically, you make 2 treasures, which is pretty sweet. It's a 2-mana background. It's very good. Oh, yeah, what up, Saint? Yeah, hopefully it performs a little bit better with some of those, like, cheaper cantrips. And yeah, if I'm wrong about the treasure thing, because I remember you telling me, but maybe I'm wrong about that. If not, don't add Crime Novelist. Yeah, Twitch is just being Twitch. I don't know how Twitch works. I legitimately don't. I don't use it very often. I want to stream more on there. I'll just be multi-streaming. I don't know. Interesting thing about this Griswold Mold deck is you are playing Name Sticker Goblin. So in the sideboard, there's like a bunch of stickers. That's for the Goblin. I didn't add these. So let's look at the cuts. Okay, so I added one additional land. I felt like 33 was a little low for this deck. I know you have pseudo card draw in the command zone, but War Room is so good, especially in a monocolor deck, and you make mana pretty easily, so having excess mana to pay for this, easy thing to add. So added War Room, added Atsushi. It makes treasures that synergize with all your treasure things. It draws more cards. It attacks in the air, which is great for your commander. Super good. Mind Goblin. Yeah, exactly. The Mind Goblin. Actually, do we have Mind here? Yeah, there is. Yes, you can Mind the Goblin in this deck. Bedlam. This is one of my favorite cards, just ever. Creatures can't block. Plain and simple. But this is a very, aggressive-y red deck, and I think that you're probably going to be the person swinging in the most here. So I think this is a good ad. This is another great ad. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell that goads something, it also has Menace, so it swings in nicely, and goaded creatures your opponents control can't block. It's really easy for you to just cast a Key to the City, make something goaded and unable to block, and then goading it also helps with just attacking for damage. And then Life of the Party. If you haven't played Life of the Party, this card puts in so much work. Because if there's any other deck that is kind of aggressive, the amount of damage being put out is insane. So what are the cuts? Sardian Avenger. I played this card a lot in my Grenzo deck, and it kind of sucks. Because it triggers off of artifacts your opponents control, which is something you can't affect. And there's not enough sacrifice looping combos outside of Dockside that this would stop. And Dockside combos aren't as common as other combos in Casual Commander, so I found this card to be really lacking. Memory Worm. Maybe I'm missing something. This card just seems kind of weird and not great. Correct me if I'm wrong, chat. If this card is really, really powerful, I don't get it. Alelia, really great with Cascade, but I don't think we're triggering it enough in this deck for it to actually be a threat. Especially considering it only has haste and doesn't actually trample over things. I love Lizards. This Lizard's not that great. Only dealing 2 damage is not enough of a punishment for double spelling, so I don't know. I think it's just not worth it. And at 3 mana, it's too much mana for not enough damage. Generous Plunderer. I remember having a discussion about this in another Discord. I don't think this card's very good. It does synergize with Sardian Avenger, which is funny, I guess. But again, you can't control how many artifacts they have. They can, for the most part, sacrifice any untapped treasures if they really didn't want to take the damage. It just doesn't seem like a very good card. I don't think it's a good enough ramp. So yeah, overall, I think this list is really cool. I like this mono-red, mid-rangey aggro type deck. I mean, we have a lot of card draw here. Slicer and Alexios, which, by the way, if you have one of these in play and Bedlam, so players can't block, then Slicer starts doing so much damage. It's awesome. This deck looks really fun. I would love to play it. Hello, Willie. How's it going? Welcome to the stream. Alright, on to the next one. Okay, Basim, I don't know how to pronounce his name. I'm sorry. Interesting card from the Assassin's Creed set. Yeah, the aggro and EDH. It's hard to do. It's really hard to do to make those mid-range aggro decks and have them work. So I've never seen this commander played because it's from the Assassin's Creed set, which is pretty cool. Anyway, you draw a card when you cast a historic spell, and then he can't be blocked, triggers only once each turn. When he deals combat damage to a player, he gets a counter. So, what are we doing here? We're casting historic spells. And, one thing to note about this deck is you were one card short when you submitted it, so you need to add one more card, but that's fine. So, here are the cuts. War and Power Stone, I think it actually curves really poorly with this deck. So yeah, you can play it after your commander, but I think it's way worse than a 2-mana rock in this deck, because you might think, oh, a 2-mana rock clashes with you wanting to cast your commander, but what you can actually do is play your commander on 2, on 3, cast an untapped 2-mana rock, which then gives you 2 mana to follow up with another spell, so you can double spell in that turn, like a Baleful Strix or whatever, or hold up, removal of some sort, like Fell. I guess this isn't an instant, but you get what I mean. You can double spell, hold up Long River's Pull, negate. So I think 2-mana rocks are just way better than that in this list, and War and Power Stone is just kind of slow. Mnemonic Sphere, it's almost a bauble. If this was 1 mana, I would love this card so much. I think it's kind of bad otherwise. This is way too slow, and you don't have anything to use all of this mana on. Like, what are your mana outlets in this deck? There just aren't any, so you're going to have no use for this mana. Weeping Angel, I know you talked about wanting to not be attacked as often in this deck. I remember the user told me, my T specifically was like, hey, I find that I get attacked down too quickly. I don't think this is going to save you. I don't think Weeping Angel is going to save you from that. Ornithopter, too low impact. I know it cantrips with your commander, but it's just eh. So, here's a few suggestions. Shimmer Mirror, you can give your artifacts flash. Your commander triggers once each turn, so you cast historic spells on other players' turns, you draw more cards. Nile Spellbomb, much better cantrip than Mnemonic Sphere and Graveyard Hate. This is also another cantrip, but also can bounce a creature, helps you from taking extra damage. Crawl Space, I think this is a really great Pillar Fort effect that also triggers your commander, since you can easily chump block just one creature. And then, if you want more protection for your commander because you find it's getting focused down, some sort of cheap defensive counterspell would be great. An Offer You Can't Refuse is my go-to example because it's one of the best ones, but it doesn't have to be this one. It could just be, I don't know, a Swan Song. It could be a Dispel, honestly. Most spot removal spells are instant speed, so something like that to protect your commander. Otherwise, this deck looks pretty sweet. I've actually never seen this commander see play, but I feel like, he's able to get in for damage, so once you get a Bloodforged Battle Axe or like a sword on him, you can actually get in there. And this is one of the few decks where Sword of Wealth and Power actually seems pretty decent. So I'm excited to see you play this deck. Alright. Next is from Uganda's Best Soldier. And it's a Varina Lich Queen deck. So this is a pretty cool commander. I feel like people have forgotten about her because it's been a while. She lets you loot when you attack with zombies, which is great. And then you can remove cards from your graveyard to make more zombies. Hello, Moth. What's up? Yeah, Crawl Space is great. It saved me so many times. It's not great against, like, Voltron, but it's good against just aggro in general. Just getting pressured. Cool. So this is a zombie tribal deck. This is nothing, nothing too crazy here. I think, we know what's going on. So looking at the list, I came up with a few things. I think Teferi's Ageless Insight, it's a bit win more. We actually didn't have like outside of the commander looting, how much like card draw do we have? Not that much ultimately. We're a lot more built on like recursion. And the recursion is sort of your card draw, repeatable recursion. This I think is too low impact. Call for Unity, too slow. This, I've seen people play this card with this commander, and it seems fun when you attack with all your zombies and you have all your mana left over and you amass like 12 or whatever. But then it means you're spending all your mana just amassing a big like token or something. So like I don't know. Would I prefer Crawl Space or Propaganda? I think it depends on the deck. In the previous deck, since it wanted historic spells specifically, Crawl Space is better because it triggers all your artifact synergies. And it works. Also, you have to keep in mind things like Propaganda doesn't stop people from attacking Planeswalkers. So it just kind of depends on the context of the deck, whether or not it's better or worse. I think Propaganda in a vacuum is probably stronger than Crawl Space, but it really depends. And then this, I also saw in the deck, it just, like, ETB Amass 1 didn't seem good enough to me. It gives your zombies hexproof and menace, but, like, hexproof is great in theory at protecting your commander, but you're worried about board wipes. Board wipes are your concern. Nobody's going to be spot removing your zombie tokens. So the hexproof isn't like that useful. You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like this plays worse than it is because you're more worried about board wipes. Okay, so I think you needed some better sack outlets in this deck. And Warren Soul Trader is a phenomenal sack outlet. This is really good. This is how you recover after a board wipe, right? You have this in play, they cast a board wipe, you're like, cool. You know, pay 5 life, sacrifice 5 dudes, make 5 treasures. Next turn, you untap with enough mana to recast your commander and dump your board and do all that stuff. Necromancer's Covenant. I've seen this get played in multiple zombie decks. I think it's really underrated. In the late game, this card makes a ton of zombies and it gives your whole team lifelink. It's really strong. This is a really good card. Murderous Rider, I felt like you could use a little bit more spot removal. It is a zombie as well, so pretty great. I also think you wanted more ways to go wide. You had a lot of like big zombies, but not that many token generators. So I felt like you needed more just go wide in this deck. And then similar reason, this is a new zombie that I think is quite good. Whenever a zombie enters the battlefield under control, it also makes it bigger. I think it's pretty good. I think this card's pretty great. For 3 mana, it does a lot, I think. So those are my recommendations here. I feel like you could go up on Counter Magic if you're more worried about board wipes. It's really up to you. But yeah, I think it's a pretty good zombie tribal deck. Alright, next list. Okay, Cake and Grab. Playing Hackball. Hackball is a pretty sweet commander. Really strong. Merfolk deck. It's good, honestly. It just does a lot of things. It explores, makes your dudes bigger, lets you ramp, you know? Alright, so what do you do with a Hackball deck? Honestly, I didn't change your Merfolk package very much because, like, I don't know, you just kind of play the good Merfolk. It's not that crazy. So what I wanted to focus on was, like, the support around it. So you had a lot of lands, and I ended up cutting 2, but going back up 1 with a Kalani Ambush. Since your commander gets really big very easily, it's a really good card, and you know, it's mana on the other end. Tuabalt, bro. I don't know how that meme got so popular. It doesn't make any sense to me. I don't get it. It's crazy. I cut Soul Guide Lantern. You had some other way to deal with the graveyards in here, so I just cut Soul Guide. Swapped Arcane Signet for Kiora's Follower. It's a Merfolk 2-mana ramp spell. I think it fits your curve better. Pick Your Poison. I actually think, phenomenal in Pauper, great in Modern, not good in EDH. Because when you actually play up against an artifact or enchantment deck, you're never going to hit the one you want. And unless you're playing this to stop flying creatures, I guess, it's not that great. Hello, you're back. Welcome back. And then, so I know you wanted to keep this list somewhat budget, which is why there's no Cyclonic Rift. That makes sense. But Aetherize is kind of like a pseudo-Cyclonic Rift. And it's really great in combat-focused decks like this because you swing all out at someone, smash them for like a gajillion damage, and then someone else sees you open and they go, hey, I'm going to swing in at you, and you just Aetherize them. Which is pretty great. So, and then last couple things, I felt like you needed some more ways to interact with artifacts. Ravenform exiles artifacts in blue, which is pretty unique. It's hard to do that in blue. I think it's just a better Pick Your Poison, because it also hits creatures, which is nice. And then Stony Brook Banneret. I was surprised he didn't have this on the list. It's got Island Walk, and it makes your Merfolk cheaper. Can't beat that. So yeah, otherwise, pretty sweet Hackball list. I think these swaps are pretty good. I imagine this is going to do work, the Banneret. Alright, Black Zoid has submitted a Kakusho, the Evening Star deck. Now, generally I try to make a 5-card change for all of these lists. I did not do that this month. There was a few reasons for that. Some of the lists people sent me are really good. Like there was we'll go to it later, but there was a CDH list sent to me, and it's really hard to tune CDH decks. And this deck is not quite CDH, but it is very, very high power, and it is already really tuned. Like I was really trying to find some like niche powerful upgrades. I was like, oh, maybe Lake of the Dead. Nope, you already got Lake of the Dead. You already have Gemstone Caverns. You already have Cavern of Souls, just for your commander. This mana base alone for like a mono black deck is crazy. So basically, I was told by this user that they're not quite CDH, but their play group is powering up a lot, and they're leaning towards competitive commander. And they want this to be more viable for that play group, right? So how do we do this? I cut 2 swaps and added 2 more MDFCs. These are both seeing CDH play because they're basically free since they come into play untapped. And the higher power level your play group gets, the less your life total actually matters. So paying the 3 life is basically free. They're basically free lands on the other side. And in a pinch, it's removal, or you can recur something. Are they playing the Escalate MH3 card? Seems like another good replacement for Pick Your Poison. No, they're not playing the Escalate one, but that is a good suggestion. I'll hit them up. I'll send it to them. I'll send that to them on Discord because, yeah, that is pretty sweet. I also cut Phyrexian Tribute. I know you said you wanted more ways to destroy non-creature permanents. This seems too inefficient. I know you want to sack your commander, but are you really going to sack your commander and Kirk just to get rid of an artifact? Probably not, right? So I don't think Phyrexian Tribute's worth it. Darkness, same thing. The more your playgroup trends towards CDH, the less relevant fogs are going to be. So I think it's worth cutting. For a better removal, I know it's 5 mana, but Invasion of Ravnica is pretty good. And you have so many like rituals and ways to accelerate into this, I think you can use it to get rid of a stacks piece pretty easily. And then Wandering Archaic. This card's really interesting. In Casual Commander, I think it's pretty useless. It just eats a board wipe 9 times out of 10, or they just play creatures. In CDH, it's too slow. But in what you're playing specifically, high power, not quite CDH, I think that's where Wandering Archaic is actually at its best. So I think this could be a good way, and it's also a way to get more non-creature removal, because you can double up on your opponents if you make some political deals. Yeah, Crawl Space is good. Yeah, do you like the new avatar? I had 3-3 Elk help me with it, because he set up something for his streams. And I spent a long time trying to figure out how to make this talk, because I don't have a mouth, so I can't open the mouth. So, yeah, I went with this, and I think it looks pretty good. I don't know, I might fiddle with it more. We'll see. Alright, so those are my changes for this Kakusho deck. This Kakusho deck is awesome. I'm sorry I could only find 4 changes, but it's so tuned. And, like, there's nothing else to cut. Like, this is a really tough list. I spent a lot of time working on this, and I really struggled to come up with a fifth thing to axe. Maybe Nim Deathmantle, it's a little slow, but even then, it's a cool deck. I really like it. Yeah, Elk and I are doing more stuff together. It's going to be pretty fun. The podcast should go up, all things, like, assuming everything goes according to plan, the podcast should be up this week. So, stay tuned for that. Hopefully. Barring any, like, technical issues. Alright. Next is a Kozilek, the Great Distortion deck from Squirrel. This commander is sweet. I mean, you get to counter spells in colorless. I love this card so much. And this, like, profile art is so sick. It's beautiful. Yes, it will be on Spotify. We're actually going to host it on Spotify as well. And see how that works. Because Spotify bought Anchor. And, I used Anchor, like, a long time ago. Back when this channel was a podcast channel. It should be on Apple Music as well, or Apple Podcasts as well, hopefully. Yeah, it's $8. Yeah, this Kozilek is like dirt cheap now. It doesn't really see like Modern Play or anything. It's not super good in any format, and the reprint tanked its price. This is probably the cheapest that this card's going to be. Okay, so this deck is very simple, right? We're casting big things, big colorless things, right? No surprises here. Excuse me. So, what do we do here? This is already like a pretty tuned list. Like, this is a good deck. This is a great Kozilek deck. So the changes I made were basically, you had 2 wastes, swap 1 for a Treasure Vault. Treasure Vault is just an upgrade over the waste, and it is an artifact. So unlike a lot of other lands, it does synergize with things like Metalworker, which is pretty good. Yeah, I remember when this card was like $30 too. It was so expensive for so long. Like, yeah, it's worth picking up if you want it. Rings of Brighthearth. I think this is a tad like win more. I feel like when you're casting these big Eldrazi and stuff, you're already doing the thing so hard. I don't think you need to draw 8 cards off the Kozilek, you know? Plus, doubling your commander's draw trigger doesn't actually do anything, so It's kind of mid. Changing the commander? No, I don't swap the commanders out. Sometimes maybe there are other commanders that are better options, but I'll leave it as the user intended. Spatial Contortion. Normally, I try not to cut removal or card draw from any of these changes, but I think this card's bad in Commander. There's too many creatures with more than 3 toughness. Foundry Inspector. You have a lot of non-artifact creatures. It seemed like kind of just an okay ramp spell. Karn, I don't think this, it's a one-sided Stony Silence, and if that's a meta call, put it back in the deck. If not, unless your playgroup is allowing you to rule 0 a sideboard, the minus doesn't really do anything. Unless your own stuff gets exiled. It's kind of not that great. Yeah, that's your problem, the guy that doubles typal triggers. Yeah, exactly. Same thing with the ring. It's kind of overkill. So what did I recommend adding? Clock of Omens. This doesn't look like it, but it is a super duper mana rock. You're playing Grim Monolith and Basalt Monolith and Mana Vault. This is easily, you cast it and gain 8 mana. It's a comically busted card. And don't forget, it can tap itself as well, so it's just so good. Crashing Drawbridge. This is a massive threat in a deck like this. If you play Crashing Drawbridge, I would not be surprised if it baits out removal. Because casting this and then just going, oh, here's an Eldrazi and it has haste now, it's too scary. This card's really, really good. Mind's Eye. Card draw, card draw, card draw. You're a colorless deck. You're going to want to draw cards. I know you got card draw in the command zone, but it's kind of expensive. This card is really good. I know it's an old classic commander staple that people have kind of forgotten about. It's still good. If you're in a low color deck, it's still worth it. Why no Wasteland? Does he not already have Wasteland? I guess he doesn't have Wasteland. I mean, you could add Wasteland over the Waste if you wanted. I don't know. Probably Wasteland is better than Urza's Factory. You could make more changes to the mana base. Last thing I added was Oblivion Stone. I think this card's awesome. Because it's a board wipe that you hold up, and if you don't need it, you just put a fate counter on one of your things. And then it becomes a board wipe that saves one of your things. And then you just keep doing that every turn. And in tandem with Clock of Omens, plus the other things you have to untap artifacts, you can easily turn this into a one-sided board wipe. It's just a really good card in a deck like this. So yeah, those are my swaps. Otherwise, I do agree. You can... does anything search for the Waste? I don't think so. I don't think he has anything to search for a Waste. I think the idea was to have at least one for a Path to Exile if needed. He honestly doesn't need it, though. It doesn't matter that much. But yeah, sweet deck overall. This deck looks really good. I think it's really strong, and I'm excited to play against it. Okay, this commander, alright. This is a commander that I think currently isn't that good, but will be good in multiple years. Scorch Ruins. Yeah, Scorch Ruins is fun. Hey, what's up? Thanks for joining the stream. This is going to be one of those cards that every set, there's going to be one big Esper enchantment. And then each time one of those gets printed, this commander gets better and better. Because the problem with the commander right now is of the big high mana value enchantments that let you steal, to allow you to steal things, most of those big enchantments already steal creatures. So yeah, it would be great to have a 6 mana aura to put on something, but all the 6 mana auras steal creatures already. So it's just irrelevant with the commander's ability. But I think this commander is going to get a lot better over time. And I think the theme is fun. It's like Voltron, but you're Voltroning your opponent's stuff that you steal. It's a cool idea for a deck. And this list overall looks pretty good. I mean, good ramp package, lots of 1 and 2 mana rocks, really good solid card draw options, great synergy cards, Spirit Dancer, Zur, Mesa Enchantress. Like, it's all there. It's a good deck. I think it's just going to get better over time. I am... I remember with this deck. So this deck had... This was one of the ones that I didn't do a 5-card swap, because they actually just had 125 cards in the list and needed it trimmed down to 100. So these were the cuts. In the interest of time, I'm not going to go into too much detail for all of them. This, I just felt like, was the weakest support creature you had. This is kind of awkward because it only lets you enchant your own creatures when you bring back your auras, and you already had 2 really good recursion pieces, so I didn't think you needed a third. In my artifact aura, recursion-y decks, I usually cap at 2 mass recursion effects, because otherwise I end up with too many of them in hand, because you never want to see 2 of these in one go, Chromatic Lantern, you had plenty of ramp, you didn't need this. This card is too much mana for what it does. Annex, it's funny, I think it's really slow. And then there were just a few other 5 mana auras and enchantments that I just thought were kind of not quite good enough. They're either not big enough to steal enough big things, or they're just kind of too slow. For Phyrexian Arena, I felt like you actually have enough card draw with your enchantresses and other stuff. I don't think you actually needed this one. And then a few of the other, we have a lot of these goad effects, vows and stuff, so I just cut some of the worst ones. But yeah, hit me up on Discord if you have any questions about why I cut any of these specifically, but I think these were the worst of the 125 you sent me. What about Flicker Form to dodge stuff? Flicker Form is pretty good. I find it to be a little mana intensive. Is that the one that phases things out? Now you got me thinking. Flicker Form. Where is it? Where'd it go? I lost it. Am I crazy, or is it? Oh, here it is. Yeah, it's really mana intensive. I don't know. I feel like it also returns under the owner's control, not yours. So it actually doesn't work with the commander. But those are my changes. I think this commander is going to get better over time, honestly. Yeah. Sometimes I'm just going too quickly, and then I hover over and I miss it. Okay, Ico sent over a Grenzo list. This commander is really interesting. I love the other Grenzo, but this Grenzo is also cool. It works with the bottom of your library. It's such a funny card. Anyway, you're going full on Rakdos Goblins, which is cool. There is actually a lot of good black goblins, so it's sweet to see you get to use them, because goblins are usually mono red, The list overall looked pretty fine. We're playing all the weird funny cards that work in the deck, like Soldevi Digger. Reserve list, by the way. And the list looked pretty good, so my changes are actually pretty minimal. Damnation. I know you're a go wide goblin deck, but I still think 2 board wipes is kind of the minimum, because people are going to be board wiping you, and you're going to fall behind, and then you're going to want to board wipe to catch back up. It's useful to have at least 2. Bedevil, I kind of swapped it for Lightning Bolt as just better removal. It's really flexible, 3 mana. It's pretty good. Sundering Eruption. I thought you could use 1 more land And this is a really good MDFC. It destroys a land, which is whatever, I guess. And its controller guy's a basic. But then creatures without flying, just in general, can't block this turn. Which is a really good way to let your zombies, your goblins, get in. I always had the idea to make a mulligan Grenzo deck. You just mulligan to 4 and fuel your late game. Yeah, it's kind of funny that it works well with mulligans, but yeah, it doesn't seem that good, because I feel like just not having enough cards or just getting hit by a counterspell is going to be your big problem there. Oh, I see what you're saying, Guru. Sorry, I missed that. It does keep the enchantments, so would you re-steal it? Either way, I still think Flicker Form is too much mana. Okay. A few other changes. Thran Turbine. It's funny. Not that good, though. And this one, I get the Scry. It's good, right? But not that good. It's not as good as stuff that puts things from your graveyard onto the bottom, because you have a lot more control over that. Scry is more random, and I think it's just a less good way to utilize the commander. I added this, another Anthem. It's good. Regenerating a goblin, also good, especially because your commander is so important. And then a Wart. This is like, your commander's died a couple times. Wart is a way to get things back from your graveyard to your hand. It's kind of more recursion. It's more useful stuff. It is also $12, so if you don't play it, you know, I get that. I don't know why this card's so expensive. A few other cuts. This card is too much mana for its effect. It's 5 mana for a 2/5 with Ward 2. It's not that good. Mind Moil seems a bit inefficient. I feel like if I was you, I'd rather just play Ward and just get the creature back to hand, you know? Those are my changes. Nothing too crazy. I feel like just a little bit more removal, some slightly better goblins, more of like a synergy pieces that work without the commander, and then another finishing kind of piece. Did I see the Damnation reprinted Duskborn? No. That's really good, because this card is still kind of expensive. Also, a lot of times when I add these as suggestions, I don't mean literally Damnation. You could do Deadly Cover-Up, you can do whatever other board wipe. I'm just recommending another board wipe. Yeah, was it the new set looks pretty sweet. I didn't get to catch all of the live stream because I had to take my lizard to the vet. He's okay, by the way, but yeah, I had to take my lizard to the vet, so I missed the stream. So I'm still catching up. I'll do that after this stream. Special guest reprints, so probably it won't affect the price too much. Yeah, that sucks. Damn. The special guest cards are cool, but they're hard to come by, so they just don't affect the price. Okay, we got Ball from Scrotum Killer. Excuse me, Scrotum Killer 69, of course. So Ball's a cool card. When your life total is lowered, he becomes indestructible. Whenever another non-token creature you control dies, you can put a counter on target creature and goad it. Interestingly, he is a combo piece because he can target himself with that, he can target other creatures, meaning with persist creatures you can put counters on them and like sacrifice and loop things, which is not the intended use of the card. It's kind of funny that if they had just made it say, like, oh sorry, he can't put counters on himself, excuse me. No, he can, yeah. He can, never mind. It's funny that like they didn't make it say opponent's creatures, so you can just target your own stuff and it's a combo card. Anyway, that's not super relevant for this deck, because this deck is actually using it as a as the intended way. It's not a combo deck. And this deck overall looks pretty sweet. Lots of good removal. I love Bolt Bend, Tibalt's Trickery in this type of deck. Fell the Profane. I mean, 31 lands, 37 including MDFCs. 6 MDFCs. That is so good. That is awesome. They have been watching my videos for sure. You know, that's also like a theme I've seen with this second month is a lot of people have really good decks. Like, I feel like the decks have, on average, been like way better this month. Not that the ones were bad last month, but like, I don't know, you guys submitted some really good decks. So I remember specifically, this user said that they haven't updated the deck in a while, and they wanted some newer cards as suggestions. So that's what I'm doing here. I know it's not super new, but Grace of Judgment did get reprinted. This card's really good. I think it's way better than Murder. Yeah, Bolt Bend is deflecting SWAT at home, but it is still good, right? Like, bad deflecting SWAT is still a really good card, because deflecting SWAT's like an S tier, super good card. Can't wait for WotC to have printed enough MDFCs for the EDH community to make it up. I know. The the Oops All Lands deck is coming to Commander quickly. Grace's Judgment is, I mean, it's like 3 Assassin's Trophies for the price of 2.5 Assassin's Trophies. Which sounds not that good, but it is. This card is really good. You probably can get there already. You might have to include some fast mana to make it like consistent. There's like 25 lands is like kind of cutting it. But you could do it, that's true. Seedling Charm. Unless I'm missing something that this card does in the deck, it seems kind of bad. I feel like you didn't have enough 1 power or less creatures to make this Shizo's Caretaker good. Persistent Specimen, too much mana to return to the battlefield. 3 mana is like a lot. And then this is kind of like the weakest sack outlet I think you had. They don't get a land either. This is true. And agreed, you can politics because it's any number of opponents. Yeah, it's really good. Like, Grace's Judgment is a very strong card. So, swapping this sack outlet for this sack outlet. I know this one's $6, but you were looking for new upgrades. This card is really good. It's one of the best sack outlets right now. Rushed Rebirth. This is a card that a few other patrons are playing. It's really sweet. It lets you get another creature. It's a cool card. Birthing Ritual. You are playing Birthing Pod, and this is kind of like Birthing Pod at home. The cool thing is it does let you look before you sacrifice, before you choose to sacrifice, meaning you can never whiff. You can always look, oh, there's a card I want, I'll sacrifice. And then Besmirch. This is just an example of it, but I feel like in a deck like this with a lot of sack outlets, you can play threaten effects and they double as removal, right? You steal a big creature, you hit an opponent, you sack it. I picked this one because it also goads the creature if you don't sack it. I just think it's a fun card. You can only look at the top 7. Yeah. No, I get that you look at the top 7, but this deck has 27 creatures in it. I agree. I'm kind of like iffy on it. Then sometimes you won't. Yeah, but if you don't have any creatures, the normal Birthing Pod is also bad. You can't say like, oh, what if I have no creatures? Like then you cut Birthing Pod for the same reason, or Skull Clamp. Birthing Pod is better. It's like significantly better. But for like a 2-mana investment, I think it's not that bad. I don't know. This is like a maybe you test it and see if it works or not. I could see you cutting it and putting back, I don't know, Seedling Charm. Oh, yeah, you won't have any creatures at the top. Yeah. No, I agree. You could have no creatures in the top 7. I don't know, I think that's pretty unlikely, is it not? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There's 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There's 2. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There's 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There's 2. I think it's pretty unlikely that you're gonna hit a situation where you don't hit a creature. I don't know. I could see it not being worth it. It's really, you're gonna have to test it, honestly. Okay, that was that one. Okay, this was the CDH deck. Alright, they built a Hogak CDH list. This was also really, really hard. This is from Necromagic. This was really hard to evaluate, and it's a cool list. It's interesting. You have the Necrotic Ooze combos with like Thornling and Walking Ballista, Protean Hook lines. This is a Parasite deck, which is pretty hard to play in CDH, honestly. You kind of have to just let someone else go for the win, do nothing about it, hope that everyone uses all their counter magic to stop that win, and then go for the win afterwards. So I only ended up making 2 swaps for this because it was really hard to make any changes. Final Parting, Sorcery Speed, 5 mana, way too slow. I get it's good, too slow for CDH. Instead, I went with Ad Nause. Your curve is like low enough that, yeah, you're probably not going to draw like 30 like some other lists can, but you can easily go like 15 cards deep, 20 cards deep, and it'll set you up to win. This is like you pass the turn, you let someone go for the win, they stop it with counter magic, you Ad Nause, untap, win. It's very good for a Parasite deck like this. Hello, gamer. I'm having a good weekend. I hope you're having a good weekend as well, Oxymoron. No, I do, you're right. Maybe the budget birthing pod isn't good enough. I think it's worth testing. Well, maybe we'll have that user review their testing, and we'll talk about it next month. Next deck review stream. Another swap I recommended for this deck was Praetor's Grasp for Endurance. So Praetor's Grasp is really, really good when you have the same combo pieces as other people. You don't, because you're a green-black deck. You're not one of the Grixis shells. So Praetor's Grasp is at its best when you take out their Thassa's Oracle. You take out their Underworld Breach, and then you get to use it because that's one of your combo pieces as well. In this case, I think it's just too slow. Endurance is a 0 mana way to stop a Thassa's Oracle win in these colors, because they often will only have like a couple blue pips on their side of the board, especially if they did like a Breach combo. So you flash this in and you attempt to put the cards in their graveyard into their deck, and if they have more than their blue pips, it actually stops the Thassa's Oracle from winning. So those are my swaps. Honestly, really just those 2. Otherwise, it's a pretty good CDH list. I would like to play against it because I feel like I need to see some of these lines in action before I can suggest more changes. But otherwise, it's got good compact combos, Protean Hulk loops, Witherbloom Apprentice, Chain of Smog combo. Pretty good stuff. Okay, next is a Smeagol Helpful Guide deck. So this commander is kind of funny. It's Golgari steal lands from your opponent's deck and then it mills them, but also ring tempting. It's a very unique card. It's very strange. There's no other Golgari card that does this. And this deck looked pretty sweet. It looks like you have a lot of, you're leaning more into the creature dying to have the ring tempt you to trigger it, rather than just playing all the ring tempting cards, which I think is smart, because I think there's better sacrifice synergies with things like Bloodghast and Jadar than there are ring tempting synergies. Golgari Mill, it's kind of funny. And overall, this deck looks pretty good. A few changes, though, that I would make is, looking at the deck, I think you didn't have enough oomph. There's just not enough, kill power. Wait, you hate this commander? Why do you hate Smeagol? It doesn't seem... I've never played against the deck before. It doesn't seem that powerful. Maybe I'm missing something? So here are the cards. 1 swamp for a Spymaster's Vault. It lets you connive. You already have like graveyardy synergies. Conniving is going to be really good in this deck. It's great. This lets you make more dudes when lands come into play, and the price is on the decline for this card. I know it says $8, but since Nadu got banned, this card is not very good in Modern anymore, and it's like starting to fall off. So I think when it tanks in price, this is a good add as well. I'm swapping Shieldred's Edict. I don't know. I feel like in Commander, forcing players to sacrifice 1 creature is not that great. I guess it hits Planeswalkers, which they often only have 1 Planeswalker in play. But usually they have enough creatures to sacrifice something they don't want. I know it says non-token, so it's a little better than a normal Edict. But I don't know. I just don't think it's very good. This one I also don't think is very good. Legendary Sorcery is an annoying thing that will come back to bite you. Shadow of the Enemy. Cool card. Really bad card. It is very slow. I've played it multiple times. And Tiny Bones, I think he doesn't do enough. I think it's too easy to trump block him. He's just a 1/1. We don't have a lot of ways to give unblockable in this deck. Cut him. So, then 3 more ways to do more damage. The new Vine Lasher, maybe wait till he rotates out of standard to see his price decrease. This is a great way to just deal damage to each opponent, burn them out. With Offspring, which is 3 mana to Offspring it in total, it's really great. Easily you're doing 2 damage per land. That's probably going to be at least 4 damage a turn. Obnixilis, huge threat, like big threat. If you hit like 2 landfall things, you're gonna drain, or not drain, just make people lose 6, and he's like a 9/9? Huge. Yeah, Vine Lasher is so good. I want a proxy of Hulk named Protein Hulk. Protein Hulk, hell yeah. Yeah, rip the non-playtested card. Good riddance. Nadu will show up in the stream, actually. Retreat to Hagra is another good landfall one. You can give your random like tokens and stuff that you make off of your landfall Death Touch, which is pretty great. This is really good if you have like with a fetch land, right? Because you can instant speed give stuff Death Touch, which makes any of your random token blockers really dangerous. And then also it drains people for life, which is pretty sweet. I feel like one of the few people to not submit a CDH power deck list this round. No, there's lots of casual lists. I feel like there were some really high power lists this month, but like there were more high power lists this month than they were last month. But then the other ones are pretty casual. I think this deck is cool, by the way. I've never seen this commander played. I'm interested to see it played, but I really think that you add some of these, it's good. I think especially these 3. This is what you really need. More just like ways to take players out of the game. Okay, Muldrotha. So this was another one that had more than 100 cards, and I ended up just trimming it down to 100. So there's like 6 cards in considering. You had too many lands. 38 lands, too many lands. We're not like a landfall deck. You want mana, but you don't want that much mana. And then you might be wondering, well, isn't Living Death and Rise of the Dark Realms good? Correct, but you're running Primal Surge, so I feel like you just got to go all in on Primal Surge. Put everything into play. Don't stop when you hit a Rise of the Dark Realms. Then Tempest Caller, I think, is just... if there was a way to flash this into play, it would be like 100 times better. It's at sorcerer speed, it's just not that good. You don't like Muldrotha. It feels like a very easy to... I mean, what I like about Muldrotha is you can build it in a lot of different ways. You can build it self-sacrifice, self-mill, artifacts, because it lets you get everything. But I do agree that the most optimal build for Muldrotha is very similar in every single deck, so it ends up being like some of the lists are very samey. And the last cut for this one was Reclusive Taxidermist. It just seems like a bad mana dork. It's a 2 mana mana dorks are kind of mid. Otherwise, the deck looks pretty good. I wouldn't make too many other changes to it. I think it's a strong deck overall. Strong commander. Can't really say much about it. Did I see the 2 printings of Norn? No, I didn't. Yeah, Primal Surge is crazy, right? Same combos on the list because they did individual. I mean, I don't know. I've played against a lot of Gold Rotha decks as a popular commander. I feel like they don't all run the same combos. Because, like, most people aren't running, like, Stasis Locks or anything. Oh my god, it is unbelievably hot in here. I need to turn on my AC. Hopefully it doesn't get picked up by the mic. Yes, this is your deck, Levy. This deck's pretty cool. It is Super Friends for Asikia, which I didn't realize was the most popular theme for this commander, actually. Honestly, pretty good deck overall. Few additions. Land tax. You're in green, and you have things that ramp more lands into play, which I think just makes land tax not very good. Plus, since you're a 5-color deck, even if you add basics to your hand, like, you almost always want to play the duels instead. And I know there's the synergy here, right? Like, don't get me wrong, like, I understand scroll rack, land tax. How many tutors do we have for, like, either of these? I feel like individually the cards are just not good. They're not good permanent hits off of the bridge, right? Oh no, it only hits creatures and planeswalkers, excuse me. But we don't have any ways to, like, search it, so I feel like in most games you're going to end up with, like, one of these and it's going to just kind of suck. Dreamtide Whale, yes. Yes, in chat. Dreamtide Whale, really good in this deck. Whenever a player casts their second spell, Proliferate. So, it has Vanishing 2, but you can cast 2 spells to put more counters on it to keep it in play. And your opponents are going to want to double spell, but not only is it a 7/5 that protects your planeswalkers, because it's just kind of big, it proliferates counters on the planeswalkers. It's so good in this type of deck. It's like $2 right now, but proliferating and planeswalkers are really popular themes in Casual Commander. So, I think this card is actually going to be ticking up in price. As soon as MH3 is like out of print, this is going to be a relatively expensive card. Get it now. Privileged Position. It does give your planeswalkers hexproof. Cool. How much spot removal is there for planeswalkers? Unless something says destroy target permanent, there aren't that many cards that say destroy target planeswalker. So I feel like it's just not that useful, especially for like a 5-mana card that does nothing else. This commander seems good. It seems like a meta call. If you have a lot of blue in your meta, keep it in the deck. If you don't have a lot of blue in your meta, I think it's just kind of mid. Heard I wanted to play Prisoner's Dilemma somewhere. Yeah, Myra the Magnificent is a pretty cool card for it. I actually don't know that commander at all. Myra the Magnificent, that's cool. Thank you for the suggestion, though. And then you also have an Angel's Grace in here. I don't know what the Angel's Grace is for. Is it just to, like, stop certain combos? Is it a meta call? I just wasn't certain. If it's not for anything in particular, I think it's just not worth it. So, additions. Windgrace's Judgment. More removal is good. This card's great. Silent Arbiter. Good way to protect your planeswalkers. Maze of Ith. Really good with Silent Arbiter. Very good for protecting your planeswalkers. And then this one, so this card might seem initially like, oh, is this kind of win more? But in a planeswalker deck, doubling up the activation of any planeswalker is almost always going to be really powerful. So what you can do is you can play this card, and then next turn just follow up with any planeswalker. You can easily hit someone who doesn't have a flyer, and then double up that ability. I think it's not too hard to get this to work. Plus, with flying and vigilance, it's a really good like chip in for damage, double a planeswalker, and block. Yeah, that's what I want from Prisoner's Dilemma. Like, that's what I want from Prisoner's Dilemma. Is I want to like copy it and then have people snitch, and then the next time, oh my god, when you cast it the second time, everyone goes crazy. I need to find a deck for that card. It's so cool. Sunforger Wincon for the for the Angel's Grace. Oh, you're doing a bit. Okay, I was like, I thought I missed a Sunforger in here. Anyway, this looks like a pretty sweet deck. I really think Dreamtide Whale is like the single best thing to add. Like, if you're gonna add one card, you put this one in. The whale is so good in this deck. But otherwise, I think this is like, it's fun. It's just too niche without any ways to find them. And yeah, I think these swaps are pretty good. Okay, Henzi. Henzi's a really cool commander. Thank you, Space Canary, for sending this in. This commander is sweet, and this deck is also pretty good. We have a lot of, like, Atsushi is super awesome in here. Pretty sweet use of Dalek Drone, because it has Flying and Menace, so it really chips in easily. And the ETB is good. I've actually never seen this card get played. The Rejuvenator, good card. Like, these are all like great options for the deck. Overall, good. Few suggestions. Bloodbraid Elf, I didn't think we had enough cheap things to cascade into that you really want. It's really awkward if you cascade into Not Dead After All and you don't have something going on, or Fling and you don't want to cast it. I feel like it's going to be kind of awkward. A Woe Eater, I don't know if you want to sack things on your upkeep so much. Because when you blitz things in, it already sacrifices, and there's just better things to sacrifice. It is kind of nice forcing your opponents to discard, but discarding versus thought seizing, like a Mind Slash, is like, I don't know, it's just way worse, I think. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, maybe this card's better than I'm giving it credit for. It just is kind of weak. Gary, this deck is actually not looping creatures that much, and since you're sacrificing your big things to the blitz cost anyway, I don't think you have enough black pips for this to be super relevant. Necron Deathmark in there. I don't think Necron Deathmark is in there, but Deathmark could be a good addition as well. It does something similar to the Dalek Drone, it just doesn't fly, I guess. Young Necromancer, too slow, I think. This card also, I think, way too slow. So this deck, I think you needed some slightly bigger things. Like, there's a lot of 4-drops in here that are like good value. Like, this is great value. This is good value, especially if you blitz it in. Like, I love blitzing Vindictive Lich. This is like 3-3 Elk's favorite card, or at least one of his favorite cards. But I think we needed just more power. And some more removal. Fade from History is really great. Especially because it makes just like a dude for you, and then it clears. You have like one artifact, you're just Soul Ring. And some of your enchantments, like these, late game, you can sacrifice with no problem. So I think this is a good addition. Atoli, giving it haste and blitzing it in is so powerful. It's so much value. It's like a draw 3, draw 4, really. It's crazy. Massacre Worm. Great interaction, really powerful to blitz. It's a 6/5. Puppeteer Click, really underrated card, I think. A lot of people kind of forget how good Puppeteer Click is because they don't see it that often. It's really strong. And this is like a backup commander that I think, you know, if your commander dies too many times and you don't want to recast it, Zeotor is there to be, you know, your replacement. And I think Zeotor does a lot of what you would want in this deck, and it's still really powerful. Ogier Kelsum is amazing. Is Ogier Kelsum the, is that the green one? Or is that the red one? No, the red one's Deepest Might. Ogier Kelsum's the green one, right? Yeah, the green one's also like a pretty good addition here. I mean, there's a lot of good cards for Henzi. Henzi is really hard to make a make a deck for because there's so many options. You kind of like can't go wrong with Henzi. I played up against a Henzi what's it called? Phoenix deck on someone else's stream, and it was really cool. It was Phoenix Tribal with Henzi, super sweet deck. I know how you just passed the Muldrow with the deck, but Jared's Orders would be good for it. Jared's Orders. Yeah, that's a good option. Wait, but is that a... Wait, is this a card I'm thinking of? No. Is Jared's Orders a like sorcery? Yeah, it's a sorcery. Jared's Orders is great, but like the problem is it doesn't work with Primal Surge. Hello, you're back. What's up? I mean, you just do Henzi and a group of good creatures. Exactly, right? Henzi just makes good creatures with ETBs and death triggers better. That's it. You know, you can't go wrong with it. Yeah, Faded History is really strong. Oh, with Yegra? Oof. Yeah, super good. I like this Henzi list, though. Overall seems pretty good. I think those changes will be good for it. This one. Brutaclad. This is a cool commander. Brutaclad is really sweet. At the beginning of combat on your turn, you make a 2/1 mirror, and then you can choose a token, and all your other tokens become a top copy of that token. So this is an artifact-focused version of the list. You can use any type of token, but it is pretty sweet to have artifact synergies. The list overall seemed pretty decent. There were just a few things I would swap. Cancel. I think Invert Polarity is kind of a crazy card. This can somehow... It's a counterspell that can randomly win you commander games. And then at worst, it's just cancel. So it's always an upgrade, right? Efficient Construction. Ironically, inefficient card. It's 4 mana. It makes one dude. It's not worth it. I was kind of confused by this selection. I don't know why it's in the deck. Unless I'm missing something about how the commander works. Because it turns the tokens into copies of stuff before you attack. So it's not like you get to attack and then transform later. So I don't know what this is doing in the deck. Maybe I'm missing something. Yeah, you disassemble your Henzi deck because it's just good creature.exe. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Invert Polarity is so sweet. I want to cast this. I need a copy. I don't own one actually. I need one for my Izzet deck. Riddlesmith. I think this card's bad. I love this card. I play it a lot. And I've played it in decks that cast more artifacts than this list does, and it is not good. This one, this is just like such an inefficient card. It only makes one token. It itself is not an artifact. So looking at your list, 31 lands, kind of low. So I'm adding like 3. Treasure Vault. Really good setup for your commander. Great card in this deck. Fountain Port. Maybe wait till it rotates out of standard. Oh, which is that going to be 5 years now? I just thought about that. It's kind of expensive right now. But it makes tokens, it makes treasures, it lets you sack tokens to draw cards. It's really good. Yeah, no, Riddlesmith is good in like Joy of a Storm and stuff, but this deck is not it's not Storm. We're not playing these artifacts like fast enough to actually to use Riddlesmith. Desolate Lighthouse, another utility land I'm suggesting here. It loots. That's good. Big score, more card draw, makes treasure tokens. I felt like your deck needed a little bit more card draw. Honestly, I'm kind of curious how well this deck plays. It looks like you kind of need a lot of moving parts. You really need the Saheeli's Artistry to like turn your Doom engine, because this turns your tokens into a copy of other tokens, right? So you need to make a token of the Doom Scuttle engine to turn your tokens into that, correct? So I think we just need more ways to like turn things into tokens, but that's not a 5-card change. I think this deck needs a bit of an overhaul. I think we have too many non-artifact, non-tokens, things that don't make tokens. I think we need more of this effect, more stolen identities. Yeah, but more importantly, we need more like lands and stuff to have the deck like function and card draw. So I think the next thing to do would be to add more clone effects. But otherwise, pretty sweet. I love Broodglad. Yeah, 3 to 5 years. Ugh. Some of these cards are going to be expensive for a little while. Okay, next is a Precon upgrade from Taggy. So this card is really sweet, actually. Unsurprisingly, I like the energy artifact deck. Although the cool thing is, whenever he attacks, he makes a copy of a non-token creature you control, right? It doesn't have to be an artifact, so any ETBs and stuff does work. Although a lot of the energy stuff is artifact oriented, so you're gonna be somewhat artifact oriented in this deck. Although you don't have to be. And this deck overall is pretty sweet. Amped Raptor is sweet to copy. Combustible Gearhulk, awesome to copy. Wormcoil Engine, I mean, like these are all sweet. I love all these. A lot of MDFCs here, tons of MDFCs. Like, oh man, I love to see it. Yeah, 28 lands, 35 including MDFCs. So many MDFCs, it's awesome. So here are my suggestions. You had 35 lands in total, but actually it was 36. I just removed an island and swapped it for Archwave Innovation. I don't know how this card is $1. It's really good. And if you have an island, it enters untapped. Like, it's such a powerful land. This whole cycle from Modern Horizons 3 is really, really good, and the blue one, for whatever reason, is like dirt cheap right now. Pick it up, it's so good. No Itali. That's true. Itali is a potential good addition to this deck. So that's another one that could go. Cataclysmic Gearhulk. This card's brutal in this deck. If you fall behind and you just play Gearhulk in your commander, and you just make more copies of Gearhulk like every turn, you can kind of slow down the game a lot. It's really strong. This is an incredibly powerful interaction. And if you don't want to board wipe, you just don't copy the Gearhulk. Dreamtide Whale. We are proliferating our energy counters. I talked about it already. It's just a good card. Tune the Narrative. It's a cantrip that gets you energy. Since we're kind of focused on energy in this list, it's just a good card. Regular Counterspell. I just felt like you needed a little bit more interaction. Honestly, just another counterspell to round things out. Few cuts. This one I think is kind of... I think it's a little too slow. So, like, you have your commander in play, let's say. And then what, you cast this, swing in, you gain 4 life, and then now you tap to draw cards? But that's so much mana, right? We spent, like, 8 mana to, like, do this. I don't know. I think it's just too much mana, too slow. And you don't have enough other life gain effects on the deck to make it worth. Yeah, I just swapped Cataclysmic Gearhulk with Starfall Invocation. I think it's just a better board wipe in this deck. And then Wake the Past. Wake the Past is a good card, but it only returns artifacts. And looking at the list, you actually have like a decent amount of things that are not artifact creatures. They're just regular creatures, right? So I'm wondering how, like, Skyclave Apparition really good in the list, but it doesn't actually work with this. So I think for 7 mana, you're not actually getting enough value out of this. And then I recommended cutting Vault 112 because it's very slow. Another dream type. Look, this card is so good. It goes in so many decks. I'm telling you right now, it's going to be like a $10 card. Get it while it's cheap. I like your list, Taggy, though. I think it's a pretty cool deck. Alright, Z-Main. Built a Shelob deck. So this card's pretty sweet. And he leaned kind of heavily into the food, artifact, sacrificey theme with some spider stuff as well, of course, right? You can't... You want to have some amount of spiders in this deck. Overall, the list is like pretty good. I mean, good MDFCs, good ramp package, utility cards, great removal. Overall, like pretty good list. All the things that you would expect of this deck. I don't think it's like too crazy, so I just added a couple of changes. Trading Post, too slow these days. Boxing Ring, too bad. Because it only fights like one creature with the same mana value. Oh, this card sucks. I know it can like make treasures if you have other fight spells. I don't know. I think it's just bad. Toshiro, good card. I think you don't have enough instants for it to be worth it. Because like not all of these are like removal spells. I think you need to build around him like more. Pippin, too slow, I think. And then this one, it is funny to give poison counters for your death touch creatures, which is your spiders, if your commander's in play. But if they just like remove this, I feel like what's going to happen often is you get like 8 poison counters on someone, and then they kill this, and then that's it. You never put more on them. We're not proliferating them in any way. You have no other poison synergies. It's just not as threatening as I think it's going to read. It plays weaker. Agreed, yes. Ripples of Unearth is crazy. Also like a $2 card. I think you need more card draw in this list, honestly. And Ripples is a really, really good option for that. Stinging Study is another card I've been seeing more of, and when you have like higher CMC commanders like this, it is pretty powerful. Your commander's like a 6-drop, right? 6-drop, yeah. So it's like 5 mana, draw 6. It's just so many cards. I don't know. I'm kind of iffy on this card because I haven't tested it myself, but I've been impressed when I see people play it. Windgrace's Judgment, another card that I'm talking about a lot this stream. This card's ridiculous, and it's like dirt cheap, so it's a great addition when I feel like you need more removal. Marionette Apprentice. You have Marionette Master in here. Honestly, this is just a smaller version. I think it's pretty good. Great addition. Do you have any tips on how to know if a deck you build is good or not? Depends on what you mean by good. I guess it also depends on what your goal is for the list, ultimately. If you're goldfishing a deck and it feels bad, you're like, wow, this deck sucks and I'm not playing against any opponents, that's usually a sign that the deck is not good. It's really hard to tell exactly how good a deck is without seeing an action. I know that doesn't really help too much, but you just gotta play test it, honestly. If you have strong interactions, I'll say that. If you have powerful things, like this deck, for example, can do powerful things. We have Vraska plus this commander into fight spell, and it like does a ton of like generates a tremendous amount of value that way. It's a powerful thing you can do, but like thinking about that and comparing it to other decks you see in your meta, like how strong is that compared to what Timmy was playing last week, is a good way to gauge the power of your deck. Like what is the strong thing your deck can do? Last addition for this deck, Primal Might. Target creature you control gets +X/+X until end of turn, and it fights creature you don't control. For 1 green, you can give it +0/+0 and have it fight. And since you have a lot of Death Touch, it's a great way to just be a 1-mana removal spell. But your commander's already kind of big, and you have other big spiders, so pumping it just a little bit will usually allow it to survive the fight. I think it's a good fight spell, and it got reprinted, so it's cheap. Okay, so now we're looking at Saheeli the Gifted. This commander is pretty interesting. I definitely considered building her for a while. Hello, welcome back. I love this deck. I'm just gonna put that one out there. It's a cool deck. I mean, I'm in it, right? It's pretty great. There's a lot of good things in here. Here is my suggestions. Okay, so 2 lands for 2 MDFCs. I think Valakut Awakening is just a phenomenal card, and Pinnacle Monk is a free land on the other side that can randomly sometimes get big. Just more MDFCs, always good. Foundry Inspector, I think this card's kind of bad. Your commander already kind of reduces the cost of things. So mana isn't like your issue so much. I think you just need like things in play, so you'd almost always rather just cast like a cheaper artifact. I'm also cutting Ponder. It was just like 1 random cantrip. Cantrips I don't think are very good in a random casual deck. They help smooth out your draws and stuff, and they help you dig for combos, but if you're not a combo deck, it's just not worth it. So I'm replacing that with Padim. Padim is really good in an artifact deck. It is hexproof for all your artifacts, is great, and it draws you cards. I think it's just easy swap. And then you had Magma Quake, which deals X damage to each creature without flying and each planeswalker. I don't like this card in the deck because your commander is a planeswalker. So if you want to do damage to all the creatures, the benefit of Saheeli is you don't take damage from those kind of effects. So with Delete, it deals X damage to each non-artifact creature, which is great for an artifact deck, and each player, which also doesn't hit Saheeli. And then Brass's Bounty. I believe you wanted to just like burst out more artifacts into play, and if Saheeli's in play and you play Brass's Bounty, you can easily follow it up with like a massive creature, and then you have so much mana for the next turn. It's just really crazy in this deck. I know it's 7 mana, but it's really powerful. Otherwise, the deck, like all the support pieces are there. We have Cycrift, Blast Act. I would also cut Brainstorm, honestly, for something else. But just sticking with the 5-card swaps for the interest of time. I didn't cut it. I think cantrips are kind of just not great in casual. But this is a good deck. I mean, these are all great cards. I'm iffy on Tail's End, maybe just a regular counterspell instead, but good deck. Strong list overall. I think these small changes would just make it a little more efficient. Yeah, Trinket Mage spot is. It's always funny to see a Trinket Mage in the deck. Okay, this deck from Legacy Warfare was really interesting. So I legitimately didn't understand it the first time they sent it to me. And the idea of the deck is you play your 2-mana Mana Dork on turn 2, and that's like the whole reason you have it in the deck. And then what's the Discord link? It's part of my Patreon. It's not a public Discord. I wanted it to be like something that like people can regularly like ping me specifically or DM me or like ask me questions and stuff. And I just can't do that if it was a public Discord. My inbox would be full and it wouldn't work. Yeah, sorry. Link's in the description if you want to check it out. It's like $2. So the way this deck works is you cast Susan, and then you tutor up the Tartarus, and then this is a Hidden Commander TARDIS. Did I say Tartarus? Hidden Commander TARDIS deck. So the idea is to play this, and then when it attacks, you give things Cascade. And that's like the whole goal of the deck, is to do this, and then you Cascade big things, and that's it. That's the whole list, which is cool. I really, really love and respect Hidden Commander in the 99 decks. Super cool, super fun. One of my favorite things to do. So, with that in mind, here's some changes. You had like 40 lands, so I was like, you can at least cut one. I know you really want to have the lands to cast your stuff, but at least cut one. I cut a couple of the big things. I know you want to cast a big thing to cascade into more big things, but you had too many big things. The curve was like the curve is already like kind of crazy, and that's like excluding these. So it's just too much. And then also one of the most important things about Hidden Commander decks is ways to get your Hidden Commander back, because unlike your normal commander, it doesn't go to the command zone. So we have Ewit, Regrowth, Shigeki. Wait, is this legendary? It's not legendary. Okay. Shigeki, Regrowth effects. Right. This is really important for the list. And then pull from Eternities if it gets exiled. Last edition, Supreme Will. Not that you have to put this card in specifically, but I feel like a lot of people play these blue Cascade decks and they go, cannot play counter spells because it doesn't work with Cascade. True, unless they're modal. Counter spells are really powerful, really useful. It's good to have a couple. This is a good example of like a cheap budget one that you can use to counter something if needed, or if you Cascade into it, it draws a card. The curve looks more dangerous than the Henzi. I know. The curve here is like kind of crazy. He has, they have a lot of ramp. Like there's a lot of 4-mana ramp spells in here. And the reason for that is with Susan, right? If you really want to have 4 lands in hand, you go land, Susan, 4-mana ramp spell, which immediately puts you up to 6, which is why the curve is so like so weird. And this is a really interesting deck because of that. I really like this idea of big ramp in theory. I feel like I gotta make a whole video about big ramp like this, but yeah, it's all like 4 and 5 mana ramp spells, which is really funny just to hit that as much as you can. It's a cool deck. I feel like I need to see this deck in action. It looks really interesting. But yeah, thanks for submitting this. This is a very cool deck. Okay, politics. Okay, now this user was inspired by like a video I made a while ago where I just mentioned the idea of making a politics deck with Kenrith, and you played a bunch of like the like Clackbridge trolls and hunted cards to like make dudes, and then you like you play your hunted troll and you're like, hey, if I give you 4 fairies, will you just attack this person? So that's the idea of the deck, is you play, these, it's a politics deck. And Kenrith is the politics commander, because all of his abilities can benefit any player. A really cool deck, and politics is very hard to make suggestions for, because a lot of it has to do with you knowing your play group, right? Or how good you are at talking to strangers and making deals. It has some of my favorite cards in it, like Guided Passage. If you don't know what this card does, you reveal your entire library, which is hilarious in Commander. And then an opponent picks a creature land and non-creature non-land from it. If you politics this correctly, this is a 3-mana triple demonic tutor. Which is like nuts. Like, in the right context, this card is broken. At worst, it just draws you like 3 cards. Yeah, I like this. Long River's Pull, really great politics counterspell, because you can give the card to anyone. So I decided to recommend a few other fun politicsy things. You had a lot of lands, so I went down 1 land. I cut Step Between Worlds because it's not actually a politics card. It's just a wheel. I mean, everyone, like, they can choose if they want to wheel or not, but eh. Rite of the Raging Storm. I hate this card. It doesn't force the 5/1 to attack. You really like the vote cards? Yeah, it's hard to make a vote deck because there's like not enough vote cards. Oh, yeah, what up, Josh? Yeah. I like your deck a lot. This is really cool. Dilemma would be crazy flavor with the politics. Prisoner's Dilemma could go in here. This could be a Prisoner's Dilemma deck. It is very funny with the theme. Rite of the Raging Storm. It does not force the 5/1 to attack. I don't like that. It's really annoying. People always politics against me because of this. They just won't attack with it. Royal Assassin just seemed kind of eh. And the deck, I'll talk about I think something that kind of messes with creatures in a better way in a sec. Sailing to the West. I don't know. I think the problem with this Will of the Council card is like it wheels and it just draws cards. You know what I'm saying? It's not like a politics thing where it affects the board in some way. Right, yeah, you tested right yesterday and it didn't work. Right, exactly. That's the problem. Is like they make the 5/1, they're like, okay, and then they just leave it. It's so annoying. Or they sacrifice it for value. Ugh. So these are my cuts. To add things, Wrong Turn, one of my favorite politics cards. You look at one person and you look at a big creature and you say, hey, if I gave you this, Kozilek or whatever, would you agree not to attack me with it? And you just permanently give them a big creature. Yeah, Wrong Turn is sweet. It's an instant too. It's so funny. Take the Bait. This card is insane. It is so nutty. It is a fog for just you, which is cool. So if they're attacking everyone, you can fog just for yourself. And then it goads all the attacking creatures. I have won so many games off of this, where they attack me all out, and then I just have them attack a different player all out, and then I swing into them. This card's just really good. Hostile Negotiations. Fun card draw in a politics deck like this. You get to choose which pile you flip face up. It's a cool card. And then Glunch. Really awesome politics card because what you can do with this is your deck is very good at using the treasures. 2 treasures means a lot in a Kenrith list because you always have things to do with the mana. So you have the counters of the draw to freely politics around. Or if someone's low on cards, you can give them the treasure tokens very easily because they can't utilize them and give yourself the card draw and then politics the counters or however orientation you want. This card's really good in politics decks. First time seeing Glunch. Yeah, I wanted to build a Glunch stacks deck for forever. Like you play Stony Silence and you give players treasures and they can't use them. Seems funny. Lastly, Deadeye Navigator. Not for any combos. We're just Deadeye Navigating like Hunted Brute and like Hunted Troll just to make more, like blink them and just make more dudes. And then you can politics and say, hey, if I give you a whole army of fairies, you're going to swing in at someone else? Yeah, that's it for this list, though. Honestly, like some quick changes here. I think all these are super fun. I gotta make a politics deck as well. It's such a funny theme, I gotta do it at some point. I really appreciate you building this Kenrith list, though. I'm really excited to hear how it goes. Oh, first time seeing Take the Bait. Oh, yes, Take the Bait's ridiculous. It's really, really good. It was in the precon, the Goad precon. Gideon Shipwright is kind of cool for politics. I might turn my Goad deck into like a politics list. I'm not sure yet. You gotta head out. Hey, I'm glad you like the recommendations. Hopefully it helps your deck. E. Okay, Krenko. I mean, come on. We all know what Krenko does, right? I don't have to talk about it. So, it's goblins, right? This is a goblin deck. We're playing Krenko, which, by the way, I love that you're playing Grenzo. A lot of people skip this card. It's so good. I also really loved Winter Moon with like 30 basics. Very awesome. Mad respect for that. Very cool. I forgot. This list was another one that had more than 100 cards, so I just trimmed it down to 100. Puppeteer Strings. A bit win more, I thought. Goblin Bombardment. I see people play Goblin Bombardment in Krenko decks all the time. And it kind of sucks. You don't want to be sacking your dudes that often. Like, I know when you cast a board wipe, you're like, I'll sack my dudes and ping gear or whatever. And it does kill utility creatures, but I think it's always better if they just attack, City on Fire, it's a lot of mana. I know it has Convoke. But do you want to be tapping your goblins down to cast this? I think you'd rather just attack with them. I cut a few of these things that just are like the sacrifice stuff to make things. I don't think you need them as much. And then Outnumber only hits other creatures. I think this is a go, go, go. I don't think you care about killing creatures. Torbrand is like the worst Anthem, I think, because he's not a goblin. It doesn't synergize with goblins. Treasure Nabber. I have never seen this card do anything. I've played it in many decks. I think it's pretty bad. I remember when it first came out, it was like a $15 card. Everyone thought it was going to be crazy, and then it just like tanked the price, and then they reprinted it. I don't know. I don't think it's very good. This was just one of the worst goblins. Needed to trim down to 100. A Devilish Valet. It's kind of funny because you're like, I'll take someone out after I make like a billion dudes. But the weird thing about Devilish Valet is normally in a deck like this that goes super wide, like Krenko goes wide as heck, spot removal is not very good unless it's against Krenko. This turns on spot removal, because like normally I don't want to spot remove any random goblin. But with this is one thing to spot remove. And I think it's better to just have Krenko as your only and just like protect him, because you're not going to save the protection for the Valet, because you don't want Krenko to die. So yeah, I just trimmed it down to 100 cards. I think this is a sweet Krenko list. Yeah, not much more to say about it. You're heading out, joining the next Patron. Hey, I hope to see you there. I'm excited to see what deck you come up with. Okay, He Who Hungers. So this, I remember this user was telling me that he was inspired specifically after seeing my short on this. So this commander, if you don't know what it does, lets you sacrifice a spirit, and then you thought seize a card from them. Now, interestingly enough, downside only sorcery speed. Upside, unlike almost all of these effects, it does not say non-land. This card does let you yoink lands out of your opponent's hand, which is something normally this effect never lets you do. Overall, this list is pretty sweet. We got all the good spirits. Turgid is a pretty powerful win con in this deck. Choice of Damnations is a really funny magic card. I'm happy to see it here. Mind Twist. I remember arguing in the comments of some of my videos about Mind Twist. People are like, Mind Twist sucks. Mind Twist is insane. If you get Mind Twisted, you know this card is good. It's ridiculously powerful. It just deletes a player from the game. There are not many other cards that you can cast on turn 4 or 5 that will just take a player out of the game instantly. Overall, the list is pretty good. A few changes. Swap for Spymaster's Vault, because this card is really good. I think it's just super good. Sensei's Top, I kind of mid in this deck. You're not struggling for card draw in this deck. You've got Black Market Connections, Phyrexian Arena, Geth's Grimoire. I don't think you need the top. Sickening Shoal, kind of just bad. It's a 2-for-1. Vicious Rumors, neat, but you already discard a lot. I don't think it's that necessary to add this. I think this Liliana's bad. I don't think your deck protects it very well. I think it's just gonna tutor a swamp and die. If you really like the card, leave it in. Here are my additions. Nether Shadow, recursive spirit, allowing you to sack it multiple times. Pretty useful. The Rack and Shrieking Affliction. I was really surprised not to see these in here. When you're getting people low on cards, this is just how you take them out of the game. The damage really stacks up, and it is on each opponent's turn. So once everyone's kind of low on cards, it's going to be doing 3 damage to each player. Lastly, Imp's Mischief. I really like this card. It got reprinted, so it's pretty cheap now, and it is a redirection spell in mono black. I find in mono black playing these kind of utility cards to be very useful. People don't expect them. It's pretty fun. I think you'll get a kick out of it. I hope to see this deck next Patreon game. Okay, Ninja Skaven has made a Magnus deck. And if I recall correctly, my big issue with this deck was you didn't have enough lands. You were running 30 lands. 30 lands with a mana curve, like, not that low. We have 6 4-drops and 4 5-drops, 2 6-drops, and a 7-drop. Like, this is a pretty, average curve. You got a lot of 2s in there, but the thing about those 2s is they're not actually 2. They're all X spells, right? So, yeah, Comet Storm is a 2 when you're looking at the mana curve here, but it's an X spell, so it's more than 2. Same with, Cycrypt. It's not really a 2-drop. You want to play for 7. So, because of that, this curve is actually a lot... you need more mana, is the main thing here. So, I cut Banefire. It's kind of the worst X spell here. Jaya's Inferno. I really hate the legendary sorcery restriction for most decks. I feel like when your commander's not in play, it's just not going to do anything. Mindspring, sorcery speed holds this back. I think it's worse than Blue Sun Zenith because of that. I know Blue Suns cost 1 more, but instant speed makes a big deal. Random Cantrip, I don't think is very good, especially because we only have 1 fetch and an Evolving Wilds, so I guess Terramorphic Expanse. It's just not enough fetches for this to be worth it. Yeah, 30 lands is just so low. Extra turn that shuffles itself into graveyard, infinite if you mill yourself. That's true, yeah. Fire Emancipation felt way too win more. It's 6 mana to do nothing. So I've added these lands. Cascade Bluffs, really good in 2-color decks. Castle Vantress will often enter untapped. Scries if needed. Loots if needed, the Lighthouse. Also Scries if needed. And then Soken'Zon, because your commander cares about tokens. So if you don't need a land, it can make 2 tokens. 30 lands with Temple of the False God in a non-green deck, kind of crazy, not gonna lie. Honestly, I would probably cut Temple of the False God as well, although I know a lot of people have an affinity towards that card. I basically played in 0 decks outside of green decks. I don't think it's very good. But yeah, honestly, add some lands, and then the rest of the deck, it looks like fun. Obviously, casting a huge Crackle with power is awesome, right? I can't fault you for doing that. Okay, this deck was also really interesting. It's a Malcolm and then Ichtekik. I don't know how you pronounce that. Ichtekik. Anyway, it's like a pirate and golem deck, which is interesting. So, this deck's weird. It plays a lot of golems, it plays a lot of shapeshifters, it plays a lot of pirates. It's one of the strangest decks I've seen. It certainly is a deck. It's very weird, which made it kind of hard to make changes for. So you notice there's only 2 additions and 4 cuts. This deck was more than 100 cards, so I trimmed back and then added more. You only had 34 including MDFCs, so I went up a land, added another board wipe, and then these were the cuts. Royal Treatment is just too inefficient, and as far as like green protection goes, you're not as worried about spot removal in this deck. Like, if I'm playing a game of Commander, I'm not sweating over this Commander. You know, like this isn't a, oh, I got a Path to Exile this Commander. I think your issues come when you die to like a board wipe, and this isn't going to save you from a board wipe. Throne of Geth, I think, is too slow because you don't have that many other counter things outside of your commander. So if your commander's not in play, it's probably not going to do much. This is just like a bad mana dork. You actually don't have that many elves. I know you got some shapeshifters, but eh. Bootlegger Stash. This card's bad. Do you remember, everybody? Do you remember when this card was $50? When the foil alt art was like $150? When people were saying it needs to be banned? This it's legitimately not good. It's like unplayably bad outside of like Chatterfang. I think it's way too slow. I think it's way too win more. It just does nothing. It's 6 mana lose the game, I think. It's just not worth it. Otherwise, I didn't have too many other things to add because you kind of already have the good Golem cards. There's not, like, we don't, unlike goblins and zombies, there's not like a huge swath of, splicers to select from. So, we're kind of like stuck with these two in these colors. I think you could potentially add more flicker blink effects is another thing. We could add more things that let you blink your creatures in and out. Other than that, I think you just gotta hope they print more golems. Bootleggers is in there as a finisher, like with your commander, right? Because then for each mana, you're gonna like... I get it. It just seems really inefficient and really bad if you're not already... Like, I think it's worse than a... Here's the problem is, if you take Bootlegger Stash over a normal Anthem, just a creature that gives your dudes +2/+2 in trample, right? Or normal Overrun, is you tap 6 mana to play the Stash, you don't actually have the 6 treasures yet. You have to wait a whole nother turn cycle to untap your lands and then do that. Whereas if you just played a 6 mana Overrun, you just have the creatures in play, you're like, Overrun, attack. This doesn't work as an Overrun. You have to play it the turn before you make your board big, and then set up. It's like way too slow. A really cool deck, by the way. Sorry, like the deck's not like super powerful, but I want to specify it's a really interesting, unique deck, which I really appreciate. Okay, next is Shao Jun by Midnight. This commander is kind of cool. As long as it's your turn, it's got flying and first strike. And then you can tap 2 untap artifacts to deal 1 damage to each opponent. This commander is pretty cool, and one of the interesting things is the commander itself is the one dealing the damage. So with curiosity effects, you get to draw cards because of that, which is pretty cool. You draw a lot of cards with this. Overall, the deck is neat. I love a lot of your selections here. Reshape, super sweet. I think a lot of people forget this card. So here are my changes. You don't have enough lands. I know your commander is only 3 mana, but I do think you want some more mana than this, so I recommended a couple of interesting ones. Emergence Zone, which is a really cool utility land, because you can sack it to give all your spells flash if needed. And then Fountain Port again. This card's really good. It does everything. It's untapped, taps for mana. You can sack tokens to draw cards. You make tokens. You make treasures. Making treasures on a land is pretty great. You could play Treasure Vault instead of this. You know, that's another option. Oh, I remember now. Sorry, you weren't running 33 lands. You were running 36. And I cut 3 for these to bring it back to 35. Okay, yeah. I always forget that it takes the number out from here when I add them here. So 2 islands and a reliquary tower for these. A couple of other swaps. Mystic Remora art. This is a meta call, but in general, when I play Mystic Remora in casual commander, it doesn't do anything because people just play creatures. Creatures are the most commonly used thing. So, like, I don't know what. I feel like it's too easy to play around the Mystical Bar. Random copy effects are fun, but I don't think they're very good if you're not built around them. And you didn't have anything like in particular that I thought you wanted to copy really badly, so I recommend cutting it. A couple other switches. Whirler Rogue can give things unblockable. It makes 2 dudes. Really good card. Unwinding Clock. Crazy in this deck. I know it's $10, so maybe that's why you didn't have it in the deck. It's really good. This is going to crank up your damage. This is going to quadruple your damage, really. And then Toggo. This is another great card to just have a bunch of random crap on the board. If you just want random artifacts in play, Toggo is a good way to do that. And it lets you throw it at, throw the rocks at people or creatures to ping them away. This deck's pretty cool. Overall, I'm interested in, you gotta tell me how good Amphibian Downpour is, because I'm very iffy on the card, but it seems good. It seems pretty sweet with Toggo as well, because then you turn the creatures into 1/1s and you throw the rock and you take them out. Yeah, deck looks sweet though. I think it's cool. I've never seen anyone play this commander before, so. Okay, well, it's been 2 hours. We're making good time. Alright. Next is by Softest Star, and it is a Rodolph Duskbringer. Okay, so I'll mention it here. I did not cut a Johnny, although I don't think he's very good. This is your deck, yeah. I feel like, is a Johnny one of your favorite cards or something? I think this is a pet card. Because I don't think it's very good, but it's a cool card. This commander is neat. He cares about gaining a lot of life, a large amount of life, by your end step. So, unlike other cards where it's just instances of life they care about, he just wants you to gain a lot. Overall, the deck is pretty good. Not too many complaints. It's pretty well designed, well put together. A lot of fun new cards. Ocelot Pride is pretty sweet. Good support cards. Archivist, Esper Sentinel. These are all strong, good cards in the deck. So my changes are not too crazy. A couple of swaps. Diabolic Tutor. Honestly, the power of a lot of tutors is that you tutor for the card and you cast the same card that turn. Really hard to do with this one because it's a 4-mana tutor. I think it's just worse than just card draw. I think just straight card draw, and you're not a combo deck. So correct me if I'm wrong in the chat, but unless you were looking for a specific card, I don't think this is worth it. Dark Ritual. Dark Ritual's good. It's a powerful card. Interesting thing about this commander is you don't want to cast this commander early. You don't want to Dark Rid him out into play super quickly. Because you already want, things in your graveyard, things to gain life. You already want some setup before he comes into play. So because of that, I don't think... Well, I'm going down too far. I don't think we need to Dark Rid him into play too quickly. Lotho, this deck isn't too double spell intensive because you want to be casting something to gain you life and then using your commander's activated ability to reanimate something, which doesn't trigger Lotho. If double spelling happens a lot in your meta, I can see it being better. Otherwise, kind of mid. This card also just sort of slow, it just drains people. It's not that great. This commander can be good in life gain decks. It does Anthem your whole team. But it's actually weirdly awkward in this deck. So it's whenever you gain life, you put that many counters on each creature you control. Do this only once each turn. The problem is, when you have these types of Soul's Attendant effects, when you cast your other creature that's going to gain you more life, it then triggers these things, which then means you're putting one counter on everything, and it only triggers once each turn. So you're going to run into these awkward scenarios where these types of effects, which are good in the deck, are going to actually caused this to be less good. Does that make any sense? So I think it plays worse than it looks. So one thing I thought about in this list was we need more card draw. More card draw. Like, your deck is powerful, it does strong things. More card draw, though. Ripples of Unearth, super good in this deck, because we're milling cards and then adding them back to hand and then recurring them. Crazy good. War Room. Usually I don't play this outside of monocolor decks, but it's just good additional utility in the mana base. And by the way, 4 MDFCs, big plus. Love that. War Room, good utility, and since you're a life gain deck, the 2 life every time is pretty, negligible. Witch of the Moors, a really annoying card. If you've ever played against this thing, it's obnoxious. It's a 4/4 with Death Touch, so it sucks to attack into and get attacked by. And then on your end step, if you gain life, easy in this deck, each opponent sacks a creature and you get to add a creature from your grave to your hand. It's so much value. You can easily play this, trigger a Soul Warden, and then, that's it. You just make everyone sack a creature. It's so good to easily do this every single turn. The Gaffer, more card draw. And then Fumigate. I thought you could use another board wipe, and this one also gains life. And it's 69 cents. Perfect. You had to work about a couple times. Yeah, exactly. I can see this working in some situations, and then sometimes just not working nearly as well. And I feel like your deck grinds really well. You have plenty of other powerful flyers and ways to make big creatures and stuff. I don't think you need that. So it could be that this takes more playtesting, and maybe the Paragon is better than I'm giving it credit for. But yeah, overall, Sweet Commander, good list. Let me know how Witch of the Moors does for you, because I think this card is cracked. It's insane. Okay. This one was really hard to make cuts for. Feldad made a Urza combo list with the restriction of there are only lands and artifacts. Other than the commander, nothing is not an artifact. There are no instants, there are no sorceries. Because of that, this deck is really convoluted, and it is also a combo deck, and it's kind of silly. So, I only made 3 changes. Grinding Station, correct me if I'm wrong. Why is the foil $110? That's crazy. Grinding Station, if it's part of a combo, leave it in. If it's not part of a combo, I think Cyberdrive Awakener can be a really good backup win con. Combo goes wrong, somebody has a Stony Silence in play, let's say. Oh no, huge problem for you, right? This gets around stacks, pieces, all that stuff, because all your random crap that you have in play, all these random artifacts, just become 4/4 flyers. And if you have 6 random artifacts in play, then that's a lot of flying damage that you can just slam in, take out the person who has the Stony Silence, and continue your combo. It's weirdly good for situations like that. Again, if Grinding Station is part of your combo, then leave it. Leave it in. Misleading Signpost. You have this in your maybe board, and I want you to add it to the deck because it's really funny. I don't actually think it's that good, but it's kind of like spot removal. In a deck that like this, where you can't really play spot removal, it lets you just redirect a creature. Yeah, Cyberdrive Awakener is so good. I've won so many games with this. It's been creeping up in price. It's getting there. It was like a $1 card for forever. Hello, Lumen. And then Phyrexia's Core, I felt like you needed more lands. I know your commander's a 4-drop, and we don't have, I know you have good rocks. Don't get me wrong. We're gonna get to your commander. I just feel like Phyrexia's Core is really great in this deck. It lets you get some extra value, sacking things to trigger stuff like your Scrap Trawler, or any other death triggers you might have, Junk Diver. It's pretty good. I think Phyrexia's Core is a great card. So yeah, only 3 changes for this list. It was, honestly, this restriction is kind of crazy, and this deck itself is kind of nuts. I feel like I need more information about this deck to make more changes. So, post it in the Discord, and like we can talk more about the deck later. Okay. Ooh, okay. Rad knit that. Knit. I don't know how to pronounce this. Am I? Is this a word that? Rad knit. Oh, a rad knit hat. There we go. I'm so bad with like words. Okay, so this is a Camellia deck, which if you don't know what this commander does, that makes sense. Oh, hello, Jonathan. This commander is new, so you might not know what it does. It has menace. It gives other squirrels menace, which... Is there a reason for that? Does anybody in chat know? Why doesn't it just say squirrels you control have menace? Because then you wouldn't need the top menace line. It would give itself menace. Anyway, I'm getting off topic. And then it has whenever you sacrifice a food, you make a squirrel. And then you can put a counter on each other squirrel you control by foraging for 2 mana, and then you have to exile 3 cards from your graveyard or sack a food. So it makes squirrels when you sack food, and then you can sack foods to make your squirrels bigger. It's a good card. So this is a food squirrel deck, right? And you already have a lot of the good squirrels in the list. Like, there's nothing to change here because there's not that many good squirrels. You have all the good ones. So, since this list is pretty tuned, I only made 3 changes. Many partings. I know it makes a food, but I think these cards are so inefficient. Like, it's a cantrip that just draws you only a basic land. It's just like, do you need a basic land that badly? You have 38 lands when we're including MBFCs. So, like, I don't know. It doesn't seem good enough. Second Harvest, very win more, honestly. Other than, like, squirrels and food, you don't make that many tokens, and you don't have many haste enablers. So it's not like when you make all the squirrels, you're going to swing in with them. I know you can sack the foods to anthem your other team. It just seems kind of meh. Some players miss it when all creatures have the ability. That's true. I guess it's more intuitive that way for a newer player. Hello, Library of Lang. Yo, Library of Lang, really fun card. I made a short about it years ago, and I got a ruling wrong, and I had to delete it. It was the first video I had to delete because I had made a mistake. And then Chatterstorm. So this might seem like a weird cut because Chatterstorm makes squirrels, right? Oh, it's gotta go in the squirrel deck. But it also is a storm card, and this isn't a storm deck. I don't know how many spells you're realistically casting before this. What are you gonna get, like 3 squirrels? 4? It's just, I don't know, it seems kind of mid. So what did I add? More damage, more killing opponents. Some Mirkwood Bats. Great card. Also, remember when people were calling for this to be banned? I love spreading misinformation on the internet. Yeah. Exactly. Now, I deleted this short pretty quickly. Sometimes errors make their way into videos. That's like one of the few things that really would cause me to like delete a video. Mirkwood Bats, really good in this deck. You're gonna take out a ton of players. Beast Within, I felt like you just needed some more removal, honestly. Like, your removal package was a little lacking, so Beast Within's good. Rampage of the Clans. Okay, players will want anything banned. I have a video about the ban list that was almost the video for last week, and then I scrapped it. But I might talk about it. We'll see. Rampage of the Clans. This card is really funny in food decks. So it destroys all artifacts and enchantments, and then swaps them for 3/3s. At instant speed. This is a way to surprise your opponents. Let's say you have a bunch of food in play, especially after a board wipe or something. You just have like, 5-6 food lying around. you can just turn that into, 21 power or whatever, right? And then swing out with them. It also, since you're making foods, turning your foods into 3/3s is an upgrade. For most artifact decks, turning their real artifacts into 3/3s is a downgrade. So it hoses artifact and enchantment decks and really buffs up your board. I think this card is really powerful. I have lost to it multiple times. It's very strong. Highly recommend it. So yeah, only 3 swaps because this deck is honestly pretty good. I don't have too many gripes with the list. It's really good, I think. Yeah, I mean that's about it really. It's a good squirrel deck. Okay, Tyler submitted a Urtet deck. Okay, so this commander is sweet. It's Mirror Tribal, right? It's a mirror deck. Whenever you cast mirrors, you make mirrors, and then you can untap your mirrors, and then you can make them bigger. It's all about mirrors. Also, really funny. Tezzeret, Master of the Bridge. Good card, I like it. So the deck is mostly, members of, the mirror type. And then the rest of it is just support for that type of stuff. So this is one that I also only made 3 changes because, I'm not going to ask you or suggest changing a lot of the creature base. There aren't that many mirror type cards, so you kind of already have all the good ones. So here's my suggestions. Go up 1 more land. 34 is a little low. And Glimmer Void is a really good addition to a 5-color artifact deck. Taps for any color, you're almost always going to have an artifact in play. It's basically free. Arcane Denial. Again, not going to talk about in the stream. Go watch my video on it. Swap it for Stoic Rebuttal. This is basically just Counterspell in this deck. Cryptolith, right? A lot of your mirror already tap for mana, so it's kind of like a redundant effect. You have the 5 that tap for the colors, and then you have this one that taps for colorless, this one that taps for any color. There's the one that taps for 2. So a lot of your dudes already tap for mana. So this seems kind of meh. I know it lets your tokens tap for mana as well, but you're only going to be activating this ability once-ish, right? Because you tap it, you activate it once, and then you go to combat, you untap, you swing with all of your dudes. So I know you could activate it a second time there. As a sorcery, you probably have the mana for it. I don't know. I just don't think it's good enough. And then Darksteel Forge for negate. Why am I cutting Darksteel Forge? Seems kind of weird, right? I think in blue, you just want a counterspell over something like this. You're not cheating the Darksteel Forge into play, so we're actually hard casting it for 9 mana, which means you're when are we casting this? It's so late at this point, right? There's no Goblin Welder to cheat into play. And it's much more versatile to just have something that stops a board wipe, So those are my changes for this list. There's a few more things you could do. Reliquary Tower could easily be swapped for Glimmer Void. If you don't want to go up on lands, you could just swap that. You could swap Assert Authority. It's kind of not that great for just a better counterspell. Otherwise, I don't know. It's a funny mirror deck. I don't want to suggest too many changes oh, you need a Psych Rift and you need a Mana Drain and stuff. Because yeah, obviously in your 5-color deck you can play those better support cards, but it's it's not the same. You could be running not Trash for Treasure. Scrap Mastery is another potential addition. I'll just throw that. throw that in here into the sideboard real quick. You could run Scrap Mastery as well if you want, depending on how many board wipes you run into. It's really going to be a meta call for that. Oh, what up, Bob? Oh, you slept in? That's right. The VOD will be up on the channel for you to see if you want to catch up. But yeah, overall, it looks like a fun deck. I've never seen anyone play this commander, so I'd like to see it. Okay, next is Omo by Striker Z. Omo is a really cool commander. I think everybody's kind of seen this. This commander's been popping up all over the place. And this deck is kind of funny. I see you're doing the like typal deck, where you're playing things like Lord of the Unreal, and you want to make other things illusions, and you play the snake card, and you want to make other things snakes, and allies, and blah blah blah, because you're making everything into every type. Your Shoal card got cut? Yeah, the black, was it the black Shoal? Oh wait, did you say in the deck that you wanted to keep that? Maybe. Oh, you cut the Shoal from your real deck. Oh, I see. But yeah, this is a, you turn everything into a changeling, you play all your support cards for all the different things. It's fun, right? It's a cool theme. So here's a few changes. Swap an island for a mirror pool. Mirror pool is really cool, and there's a lot of fun things you can do with it. So a lot of these synergy cards are not legendary, like Lord of the Unreal. If you turn Lord of the Unreal into an illusion, he gives himself hexproof, and you can also like copy him and then have like multiple of those. This is also not legendary, so you can have multiple of those, and because he gives other tree folk indestructible, so if you have two, they're not giving each other indestructible. So Mirror Pool seems like a really great addition to this deck. I see these with the sliver things. I don't think the flying is relevant enough in this deck. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe your meta just doesn't have enough flyers and it's kind of a free attack. Lastly, Gemhide Sliver. Here's the thing: is by the time you have your commander in play and you're already making things into slivers, you probably don't need the mana already. Suggestion for the Omo deck: Gilt Leaf Archdruid. Okay, so let's talk about this card real quick. So Gilt Leaf Archdruid is a interesting card. I didn't suggest it because I didn't know if this is the route that the player wanted to go, but we might as well talk about it. So this is a Druid synergy card, right? And it has the ability to tap 7 untapped Druids to gain control of all lands target player controls. And that's not like until end of turn, that's just you steal all their lands. It's probably one of the strongest type-related like synergy card in the game. Like, there's nothing else that lets you steal all the lands from an opponent. The problem is you need 7 Druids, and I think unlike Timber Protector, where you just play your commander and then this, and suddenly your commander is indestructible, 7 Druids is too many. If you really want to live the dream and use this ability, I mean, it's funny, so go for it. I don't know if I would recommend it. Amoeboid Changeling. This lets you turn things into changelings for 1 turn. Really good addition to this deck. Kind of a backup commander. Mutational Advantage. Permanents you control with counters get hexproof and indestructible. Prevent all damage that will be dealt to those permanents this turn. And it proliferates, which the proliferating is not actually very useful in this deck. It's just a budget heroic intervention, because I feel like you want more of these effects since your commander is like really crucial to this deck. So more of this effect is good. Planar Genesis. I think this is a better kind of ramp spell than Gemhide Sliver because late game it's a card draw spell. And then Nadu. I think Nadu works well in this deck. your commander is something you really don't want to get hit by. Your commander is going to be the focus of many decks, right? They're going to be spot removing your commander a bunch. Because of that, Nadu helps you get around that by ramping you and drawing cards, and letting you potentially draw into some protection in response to that. And then you're going to target your own creatures with your commander's ability, which lets you trigger Nadu. So I think this is like, in the 99, it is a fun, fair way to play Nadu, which sounds crazy. Some ones I get were because it was cheaper. Flying across the table if you take all my lands. Yeah, I'm flying across the table if you take all my lands. Yeah, this card is brutal. If you ever run against because it's not a commander, it's in the 99. If you ever play against like a druid deck, like be on the lookout for this card because it is a massive threat. Okay, other cuts. Magus the Candelabra. I know with your mana doubler, it's good. Outside of that, it's bad. I wouldn't play it. Helm of the Host. It is funny to get multiple Omos, I guess? But, it's so much mana. It's 9 mana. It's so much mana. This card is, like, so slow. It's unbelievable. If you can get away with it in your play group, if there's not enough removal, go ahead. Otherwise, I think this card's just bad. Yeah, keep it a counter spells. Yeah, you gotta get rid of this thing. It is a menace to any table. All right. You Must Gather Your Party Before Venturing Forth by Seb Stanicle. This is a cool deck. Magus of the Candelabra and Archer can go infinite. Yeah, but what do you do with... Sorry, let's go back real quick. We're making good progress. I can spend some more time here. What are we doing with infinite mana in this deck? We're just like... There's no X card draw... What, you make infinite of this or this? I don't know what this in draw roll deck, it's like, it's too specific. I feel like you're going to actually end up in a situation where you could make infinite mana and then, like, not do anything with it? Makes it infinitely big? What, the Magus? It doesn't get bigger. Am I missing something? It makes them infinitely big. Put Helga's Flavor, yeah. It's really slow, yeah. I don't know, I feel like the Magus combo is just kind of like... You need too many pieces and we don't have any tutors. I feel like you'd rather just like attack at that point. Oh, the Griffin Canyon gets infinitely large. Oh. What am I looking for? Griffin Canyon? Gives +1/+1 to an... Oh, okay. I don't know. It doesn't seem that useful. If you want it to be a combo deck, I feel like there's a different way to take this deck. Oh, it's not in your deck. Oh, sorry. I was looking for something. I was kind of confused. Okay. My bad. Okay. This deck is interesting because it is these two partners, and then Coat of Arms would never backfire. Coat of Arms will backfire, but it's like, I think, really funny. Also, you can cast Coat of Arms and just swing in. The thing about this deck, which is kind of interesting, is it is a theme deck, so it's all like, D&D themed and such, which makes this deck really hard to make suggestions for. So, you had a lot of cards in your sideboard for this deck that you were thinking about adding to the list. And we talked on Discord, and I know you wanted to add more removal. So what I ended up doing was I came up with these two cards I think are the worst cards in the deck. I think this is too slow, and I think this doesn't do enough. And I think these 100% get axed. And you wanted more removal, counterspell, power word kill, still very, these are still D&D flavor cards. And I think that's like an easy swap to add more removal. These three I think also fit in the deck, but I couldn't find specific cuts. And with a flavor deck like this, so normally like, I'm just commenting on like power level, consistency, stuff like that. With a flavor deck like this, I think you just pick your like least favorite dudes and cut them for these if you want more like enchantment removal. I think in terms of like power is secondary to a deck like this, right? Coat of Arms is really funny with a good deck. That is true. So I think ultimately like this list it's really cool and interesting. It's just really hard for me to make cuts in a normal sense. I think these are the worst in the deck, and I think these two just are the easiest swaps. And these three I would consider putting in. Otherwise, the other stuff in your sideboard was other good options. I just think not as necessary as those three. I really like this card in here just to reanimate like a lot of dudes, because your curve is actually pretty low. A lot of these are like just 3-drops, so I think you can easily get like a lot of stuff back. Maybe Sephiroth is like the worst thing in here. It does go into the dungeon though, so it's hard to say. I think you just pick some of your least favorites because it's a flavor deck. You should have your favorite dudes in here. Maybe Bygone Bishop goes. Yeah, I mean, I think Seb is not under any like illusion that this deck is going to be like super powerful, like crush the whole table. I think it's it is a flavor deck, and I know they've been working on this for a while, and it's really cool. I just think it's hard for me to make cuts because you have things in here for outside of just like normal power reasons. But I think this card's like really good, and I think this is another great addition. So I would probably add them in. Maybe you cut some party members here. I think Sephiroth might be a little slow in this deck, but maybe I'm wrong about that. Maybe it plays better than I think it does. So yeah, definitely post this again. I had to send it there, but it causes too many. Oh, it causes too many ETBs. It is going to be like a headache because you're going to venture into the dungeon like 12 times, which is powerful. But yeah, if it was too tedious, I understand that. I think Dawnbreaker Cleric's actually just a really good card. I play this with like Popper, and it's pretty sweet. I mean, it's just very efficient. You hit a thing in the graveyard that's annoying and recursive, or you destroy an enchantment, and sometimes you gain life if you need it. But yeah, not too many like big changes for this deck, but I really like it. Like, I mean, it's just a fun deck, Okay, moving on, we have Zevlor. Now, I remember this user told me that they were getting aggroed out too quickly, and I hope to play against your D&D deck sometime. I think it's really cool. The dungeon backgrounds are pretty flavorful, but Thrasios isn't super useful for the rest of the deck, and Tymna's going to get focused hard because it's a powerful card. So I wonder how much the backgrounds are going to do, I remember this user specifically told me that they're getting focused down by their playgroup too quickly. They need to survive longer, and they need more ways to close out the game. So with that in mind, thinking about all of that, which by the way, Worst Fears, super fun with Zevlor, one of the coolest cards. Thinking about all that, I came up with a few suggestions. We cut Repeal. I think this card is like, yeah, it's funny if you copy with Zevlor, but like, if they have a big thing you want to remove, which big things are often scary, it's too much mana. Lightning Bolt, too inefficient. Even with Zevlor. Glint, I feel like counterspells are just better than this type of effect because it's more useful. Bake into a Pie, funny card. I love this card. I love pie. It's not that good in Zevlor because it's like 6 mana if you want to do the copy thing, and it's just 3 removal spells. And then Oblivion Sword, because I think this card, if you're not like doubling cast triggers or doing land stuff, I don't think it's very good. So I have a few suggestions. 1, Sink into Stupor. This card is ridiculously good. Especially you copy it with Zevlor, it's a land, you know. Portent, I think, is a really interesting card in this deck. About Zevlor, yeah, no, Zevlor is really cool. I played him for a while. It's a very fun card. Portent is a really fun card draw in this deck. So, the reason I'm talking about, so normally, like I said, I'm not a huge fan of like cantrips. This, with Zevlor, can be a triple cantrip, because you target an opponent, and then you target 2 more opponents. And it's Ponder, but you can look at anyone's library, and you draw on the next upkeep. If you're worried about getting aggroed down, looking at your opponent's cards can be a way to mitigate that. You can look at the top 3 and go, ooh, that's a scary thing. I'm going to have that player shuffle their library. Or you can look at the top 3 and go, whoop, that's 3 lands, I'll leave them on top. And you can kind of like mess with that as a way to not get aggroed too easily. You can play politics with it as well. It's a fun card. Fogbank. There's a couple of creatures in this same vein. If you just go to like EDH Rec and pull up Fogbank, then you will like see a bunch of these things. And if you don't want to get attacked, stuff like Fogbank are great. It's got flying, it sits there, it doesn't take damage, it just blocks forever. Ooh, yeah, Zevlor with Eternal Dominion. Okay, I actually pulled that off. That's the reason I took apart the deck, was I pulled off Zevlor Eternal Dominion in a game, and I was like, I've lived the dream, I've peaked, I'm going to scrap the deck. But you get info from Portent, which is pretty cool. I think it's a pretty fun card in this deck. Exhaustion. This is another way to stop aggro. Somebody gets attacked by a bunch of creatures, and you're like, uh-oh, yikes, I'm next. You hit them with Exhaustion, and then they skip untapping. And lastly, this is just an example, but Goad. Goad spells are really great with Zevlor. Besmirch is a really good one. All of your opponents have a big creature, cool. You take them all, you slam into people, and then they're all goaded, so you don't have to get worried about it. It's another great way to like mitigate damage and buy you turns where you're not being attacked. Other than that, your deck's pretty good. It looks like fun. Zevlor is an awesome commander. I mean, Siphon Insight's super fun with that. Flame of Anor is like super sweet. Like, these are all just like cool things. It's just a cool deck. It's a cool card. So mean to do that? Yeah, Zevlor with a... Oh, wait, are you talking about with Exhaustion? Yeah, this Zevlor with Exhaustion is brutal. But if you don't want to get attacked, it's a great way to do that. Okay. Now this is an interesting commander. Oops, I did not mean to do that. So this is from Endori. And they made a Yaris, Roar of the Old Gods. I'm going to read this commander because I had to read it. I have not seen anyone play this. Other creatures you control have haste. Great line of text. Whenever one or more face-down creatures you control deal combat damage to a player, draw a card. And then whenever a face-down creature you control dies, return it to the battlefield face-down under its owner's control. If it's a permanent card, then turn it face up. So it's like a cloak, morph, all of those things deck. Which is pretty cool. I think it's a really interesting, weird card I haven't seen before. And we already have a lot of really great support cards in here. I mean, this is really good. Oran Frostfang. Soul of the Harvest is awesome in this deck. Whisperwood Elemental, great card. So I just wanted to like focus on the Hunter's Talent, another really, really good card. You can go crazy with that Sharpie Commander, that's true. So here are a few of my cuts. Down 2 lands. So after I cut 2 lands, we're still at 38, which is a lot. So we had so many lands, too many lands. Lightning Bolt, not great. I think it's too it's not. I guess it's not inefficient, but it's just not good enough. It doesn't kill enough things. Yes, this deck is going to get way better in the Duskmourn set. Once Duskmourn comes out, this deck is going to get stronger. This card, I don't really like backgrounds when it's not in your command zone. I find them too inconsistent. Decimate. This card's bad. It reads so good until you realize you have to have a target for everything. Meaning, if there is no enchantment in play, you cannot cast the spell. If there's no artifact in play, you cannot cast the spell. And because of that, you end up with Decimate being useless a lot of the times. If there is all 4 types, it is efficient. But whenever I play this card, it has been dead too many times. I don't think it's very good. So a few changes. Hidden in Plain Sight. It lets you cloak 2 things. It's like a mini. It's like a collected company, but for cloaking. Seems really good in this list. Fugitive Codebreaker. Really good disguise card. I know you don't have that many instants and sorceries to reduce the disguise cost, but I think in the late game, because you're gonna have plenty of mana in the late game, it just lets you draw 3 cards, which I think is good. Yeah, they love Decimated Precons because it's like a terrible, worthless card, and it's confusing for new players. I don't know. They need to stop putting these in Precons because it's confusing to new players, and it's just not good. Evolutionary Leap. Another great sack outlet. It's a sack outlet that draws you a card, but that card is always a creature, which is kind of where you want to be in this deck. And then Bolt Bend. Your commander has 4 power. Bolt Bend is a really good magic card. Lets you easily redirect spells. Even at 4 mana, it's not the worst thing in the world. And your commander is such a unique piece of this deck, you really want to protect it. So I think more protection for the commander is good. Same thing with Bolt's Trickery. More protection for the commander. Okay, I believe this is the last deck for the month. Lumen made a Locust God deck. So, Locust God is a cool commander. A very powerful commander, a very scary commander. And it looks like you're already on the right track. Look, we got the new Lizard Perforos, we got actual Perforos, we got the funny Golem Perforos, all of the normal things we'd expect. There's a lot of good support cards here. Skull Clamp, right? Lightning Greaves, good cards. Mox Opal. Here is my suggested changes. Alright. I don't know if this is your favorite card of all time, but I think... So you have Jace and Oracle on the list. I don't think either of these are very necessary. I know it's oh, I draw my whole deck, I play Oracle, I win, right? If you draw your whole deck in this list, you probably killed somebody with Perforos or Molten Gatekeeper. I don't see too many scenarios where you draw your whole deck and don't win. Does that make any sense? I feel like you could already win anyway, and I think that these are ultimately dead cards because you probably already win the game without these. Now, if it plays differently, correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe I'm off, but I'm pretty sure you can just win the game no matter what. You made an Oops All Spell Gods deck because that's funny. Yeah. Oh, you're in the chat. Nice. Yeah, perfect. Yeah, do you find yourself actually needing to win with this, or do you draw your whole deck and Locust Gods in play so you have infinity damage? between the attacking with the dudes and Goblin Bombardment, even if you didn't have a Perforos effect in play, yeah. But it feels obligatory if you're drawing a lot of cards, right? But I actually think so. Thassa's Oracle is one of the most uniquely powerful cards in the game, and I really genuinely hate the card. It sucks. It's super lame. But it's really only busted in blue-black decks when you have the Forbidden Tutors to really make use of it. Without the Forbidden Tutors, if you're going to draw your whole deck, you can probably win in any other way. And when you play these combo decks that draw your whole deck, you want to have as little of these types of effects that don't do anything unless you already have your whole deck in your hand as possible. You want to minimize the package as much as you can. That's why like the Nadu deck in Modern ended up cutting Thassa's Oracle, because it's a dead card. Instead they did this convoluted loop where they like looped things over and over again to like ping their opponent or whatever it was, you know? Yeah. Days Undoing. This ends your turn. This is like... I feel like this is the worst wheel in your deck, because you can't actually like do anything after the wheel. Arcane Denial. I hate this card. Pact Negation is way better, especially if you're drawing your whole deck. You want a free counter spell. Not going to go into Arcane Denial too much right now, but, you know, just putting that out there. Howling Mine. I feel like you draw enough cards as is. You don't need to help your opponents. These are my ads. Days Undoing is funny. Like, if you think it's funny and you just like the card, like, I'm not going to stop you. I'm just saying I don't... It seems bad. Yeah, Obligatory Arcane Denial bad, yeah. Whirlpool Rider. This is a 2-mana wheel just for you, which in this deck is honestly good enough. Like, this is really efficient, mana-wise. Valakut Awakening. I think this is, like, the best Valakut Awakening deck we've seen out of all 38 of these lists. This is, like, the Valakut Awakening deck. I think you need it. This card is so good in the deck. Pact. If you're going to draw your whole library, you want as cheap interaction as possible. So during your combo turn, you can play stuff like Pact, and you don't have to worry about the upkeep cost. It's just a free 0 counter spell. It doesn't have to be Pact. I'm just saying cheaper interaction would be really good here. Endurance Loop that gives you infinite insects with Spectre. That's what it was. Thank you. Oh no, he's talking about the Nadu loop. Like I was talking about why they cut Thassa's Oracle, and I couldn't remember exactly what the loop was. Echo of Eons. This is like a really good wheel. 6 mana on the front half is like, kind of mid. But when you wheel it away and you like ditch the card to like a windfall, it ends up just being like a 3-mana wheel. It's super powerful. The flashback is so good. I play this in CDH. It's really strong. And then Argent of the Shifting Flame. This is a card that I feel like maybe it's a bit Windmore, right? It could be in that category, but I feel like this is as far as Windmore cards goes, it's a very much I untap with this, I win kind of card, because you wheel so much. It doubles all your wheels. It's kind of crazy. Yeah, the Nadu loop was so boring to watch, and like, good lord, on MTGO, it's like unusable, right? Like, you cannot play Nadu. I'm so glad that card's banned. But yeah, Argent, I think it'd be a really fun addition to this deck. It's like, it just doubles your wheels. It's just really dangerous in this deck. It could be a little Windmore. Maybe it's a bit ambitious to play. But I kind of like just having another body as well, so you don't get chipped in too much. That's my thought. That's my thought on Argent. Maybe you keep Days Undoing instead if you just like it. And, oh my god. Whew. That was all 38 lists for this month. There is a link in the description here to all of the deck, all of the decks. It's on my Moxfield page, and on my YouTube channel there is a link to the Moxfield page itself. I have the deck checks for August, the deck checks for July, plus this, which is the decks I currently play. You can see those. I haven't updated them from my last video, so if you're wondering why, like, Dockside is still in there, I haven't made those changes yet. I've been really busy. You watched a bit of the Pro Tour, and it was... I know. It just made the Patron like awful. Nadu was like, it's just a comical card. Yeah, it does remind me of Eggs. Eggs had like 1 hour long matches, which was ridiculous. But yeah, that's the stream for today. If you want to submit a deck, there's a link in the description here and on my channel to my Patreon. I do this every month with patrons. They can submit decks. So, if you want to get in on one of these, check that out. There's other Patreon perks as well. You get access to the Discord. I hope to see you there. Next week, on the 7th, I will be streaming, but I will be in the Creator Showdown. So, if you want to see me play in a standard tournament against other creators and streamers, join on the 7th. I will probably be playing Boros Token Control, probably. We'll see, though. I need to practice more standard, so you might see me streaming during the week some standard games if I have time. Thank you all so very much for tuning in. Thanks to everyone who submitted their deck. And yeah, have a good one.